If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
We are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Khalid Muhammad from Command 11 in Pakistan, aka Agent 711, and below us, my good friend Jeff MD. I still laugh every time I say it too, Jeff. 26-year CIA case officer, Jeff MD, author extraordinaire, aka 007. And of course, it's Wednesday night, which means that Mike Glover will be joining us at the top of the hour. Whew. Okay, so tonight we're covering the next episode in our long war series, but we're going to do an hour of a Command 11 sit rep while we've got Jeff. Then when Mike joins us, we're going to get into discussing post 9/11 complex coordinated terrorist attacks, building trust, the foundations of community resilience, including how to vet, bond, and maintain trust amongst neighbors and allies in a fractured society. However, before we do that, we are going to do the conflicted question. If you're not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com, 14 different card decks set in post-apocalyptic settings. 99% of the questions have some element of morality to them. And here we go. Once the local community started to break down due to the collapse, leaders of all kinds started to step up to the plate. Mindy, the head of the Homeowners Association, had no experience dealing with this new reality, yet she thought her leadership status in the community gave her the right to make all the decisions. Gordon quickly realized Mindy was the wrong person for the job. She had to be removed. If you were Gordon, how would you go about replacing a bad leader? So,
Khalid's going to answer this one.
Can we just change Gordon's name to Khalid? Can we just do that?
It takes a lot of time.
Well, I mean, that would make a lot of sense, but, living in Florida here, clearly Mindy is a retired New Yorker, who moved down here. You know what the difference is between a Yankee and a damn Yankee? Yankees go home. The rest of them, they stay here and they fuck shit up like HOAs because they got nothing better to do than bitch and moan and complain about shit. Pardon the cussing.
My theory is, after World War II, half of the Nazis went to South America. The rest came to the United States and joined HOA boards.
There you go. There you go. That's so all joking aside, we love our friends in New York that are getting screwed over by a horrible state government,
but probably we don't like HOAs.
Yeah, but definitely give us a break on the HOA. So I got a bunch of crap on my desk here. It's not crap; it's good stuff. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Stay Brewed Coffee. We don't get paid by Stay Brewed. We don't even get any affiliate stuff. We don't want any affiliate stuff. This is my buddy Craig and his family. They're super Christian based family. I want to say that between his wife and daughters, there's like 7 women in the house. He's the only guy. But every package I get from Stay Brewed Coffee, one of his daughters sends me a piece of artwork. Many times it's the flag and saying patriotic or Christian things on them. So again, thank you to Craig and family at staybrewed.com. We used to have a discount code, S's and Sam, D's and David 10. I'm not sure if that works or not, but if you want to support a small family, small business, go support Stay Brewed. Awesome people. And the coffee's really good. I actually have one going over here beside me. So speaking of Khalid and battlefield executions, Jeff, tell me what your thoughts were on Vets Tactical when y'all were using them on the set for Surviving Man. I really like this product.
Yeah, this was not the most recent filming. It was the one back in was it March or April? in Texas, and they were doing where the contestants would draw. They were in a vehicle, stop, draw, shoot through the V between the door and the body, and get rounds down range. And they had to hit targets, and they did it wearing a holster that you carry, on your person, and then a holster in the truck that's that's attached to the console or somewhere under the dash, wherever you wanted. And then they had the Vet's Tactical Cup holster, and every single person drew, fired, and hit the target significantly faster using the cup holster. I mean, it wasn't even close.
And just so y'all know, that's actually a patented name. So it's CUPOLSTER, cup holster. But the one with the orange, by the way, YouTube, here comes the custody. You can fuck off and die. They deleted one of our episodes from 2 years ago on being gas station ready, and they said at this marker in the video, you were trying to sell guns. There was no gun selling whatsoever. Bunch of rotten ass commies. Make sure that you follow us on Substack, because I could wake up one day on the few times I actually get some sleep, and our channel could be gone off a commie tube. But this orange training pistol, these are plastic pistols, asshole commie tube. This is actually a new device that's fixing to be released imminently, and I'll talk about that more another time. But you can see how it's angled back. It's cantilever back 20 degrees, whereas this other plastic implement, YouTube, is not cantilevered back. So if your cup holder is quite a ways away from you, get the one that's got the cantilever, the 20 degrees backwards. If it's closer to you, take the one that's more vertical up and down. Now, what I can't show you with this, because these are just hunks of plastic, is they have magnets in them on one side that draws the gun to one side, so they don't flop around like this at all. But this is a very innovative product, and highly recommend it. vetstactical.com. And we don't get affiliate commission from them either, but they like to track where leads came from. Same coupon, S is in Sam, D is in David, number 10. All right. I feel like, I don't know, like Mr. Rogers or something doing, show and tell or something here tonight. I do want to mention that the POC link radios, so FRS/LTE radios, today is the last day that you can get them with free global coverage for the SIM cards for all of your radios. So as of tomorrow, so these are $399 for a pair right now. They're going up to $1,140 a pair imminently, and not tomorrow, but soon. But they have run out of the SIM cards for these things. They'll basically be out tonight. So if you don't want to pay somewhere between $29 and $65 a year per radio, go get them tonight. I'm going to put the link in the live chat right now. It's in most of the video descriptions on most of the platforms we're broadcasting to. If you don't see it, you're on LinkedIn or something like that, go to our Substack, survivaldispatch.news. They're also in the process updating the app for these, by the way, that's going to remove the limit on 100 people per group. So stand by, because as soon as that update comes out, I'll be sending out a QR code for y'all so that you can quickly and easily get them into the right group for these things. All right, that's it for show and tell. Khalid, before we get into the sit rep stuff that's related to, X-Post and whatnot, give us an update on where things are with the Afghanistan-Pakistan war that nobody in the world knows about.
8 o'clock last night, we put drones in the air. We have been over Kabul. We are over all of Afghanistan's major cities. We are controlling the sky. We have gotten, it's between 8 o'clock and it's now 4 a.m. in Pakistan. We've taken 16 kills with assault teams without putting a drone into battle yet. Afghanistan, we made a massive mistake. We talked about this last night on the Command 11 sit rep episode. You had the opportunity to come to peace and deal with the terrorists on your soil, and you decided you wanted to go to war instead. Well, as soon as the talks fell apart, our military was already in play. Our team was still in Turkey when we were putting together target packages because we knew what was going to happen. And at 8 o'clock last night, we put drones in the air. We are over Kabul. We put a couple of fighter planes in the air as well, just to make our message very clear to Afghanistan that we're done playing around now. If we need to take out whatever we need to take out, we are going to take it out. We have now, for the first time, put Bagram Air Base on our target package list, because yesterday a rumor flew that the Taliban is handed over Bagram Air Base to India. We're not interested in having India sitting in Bagram. And if it means blowing Bagram off of the planet, we'll do that as well. That's left to Donald Trump now. If President Trump wants to step in and settle things down with Afghanistan, cut off their funding and get rid of all the terror camps inside of Afghanistan, that's his choice. We've made our decision, and we have made it very clear to Afghanistan that until all those camps are gone, we are not going to stop this war, no matter who steps in now.
I got to ask you, Jeff, I got to ask you, why is the American press or even the European press, nobody's talking about this other than Trump made some, passing comment?
Well, one, they think it's halfway around the world, so it doesn't affect us, which it does. But it doesn't fit anyone's narrative. It doesn't fit Trump's narrative because, okay, it's a new war, and then they're going to say, well, great, go solve it. He may just kind of want to let Pakistan do its thing. And the Democrats don't want to bring any attention to it, because then it'll do is highlight how bad, Biden left us when they pulled out of Afghanistan and left behind billions upon billions of dollars of equipment. So it's in nobody's political interest to raise it.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought of it in that context. Makes a lot of sense.
It's all political. Everything's political.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all political. Yeah.
I disagree. It's all political theater.
That's political.
Well, today is synonymous. Go ahead, Clete.
Trump's statement the other day, I think it was in Indonesia, he said that, I've now heard that Afghanistan and Pakistan are at war with each other. That was the first statement that was made in the U.S. media about what was going on here on this side of the world. And it's really interesting that no one picked up in the media after that. There hasn't been a single story run anywhere about what's going on between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And the chances of this escalating into a regional war, because Afghanistan is aligned with India, Afghanistan is aligned with Iran, that could bring two other countries into the war, and you have two nuclear powers standing up against each other, Pakistan and India. And I'll give you, at 11 o'clock last night, we shut down our airspace in Pakistan, and India shut down their airspace as well, which means they are either contemplating something or they're afraid that Pakistan's going to launch a preemptive strike.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So speaking of terrorists, I'm pretty sure that Shannon sent this into us on Antifa announcing uniform change to look like more like Hamas terrorists. This is rather interesting. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while on how, there's this unholy union between Antifa and these terrorist groups. Now they're starting to dress like Hamas. Jeff, I got to go to you first. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this has any impact, psychologically on them or the people that they're fighting against? Does it change anything as far as law enforcement's perception?
Well, from Antifa's standpoint, they go, look at us. I'm a real boy. It's the Pinocchio syndrome. See, I'm a real soldier. I dress like one, and you're not scared of me. You should be, because I look like Hamas, and Hamas does bad things.
Fair enough.
From the government side, I mean, look at it, go, okay, at least now we know who to shoot when the time comes. I would look at it as like, thank you for advertising who you're with. Yeah. No mysteries here.
Well, before we move on, Jeff, I'm wondering, in the bigger picture, same question for you, Khalid. What is with this alliance between, Antifa communists and radical jihadi Islam? I mean, they're diametrically, like, they're opposites, but now they're co-joined together.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
They're not diametrically opposite. They're both violent extremists. They both hate the United States government. They both hate the United States for what it stands for. They're both militantly anti-Semitic. The only thing where there's a disconnect is the whole gay trans thing. You've got trans Tifa, and it's just like you got gays for Palestine. Yeah, go to Palestine, see how long you'll be gay until they can find a high building to chuck your ass off of.
Well,
that's the only real disconnect in their philosophies.
I disagree.
I was thinking in terms, just a sec, Khalid. I was thinking in terms, Jeff, of the fact that, Antifa, communist, socialist, they expect and want everything for free. And I don't necessarily see that from the jihadis. And
I'm not looking at it from a political standpoint. I'm looking at it from a military standpoint.
Fair enough. I'm looking at it from just an overall 30,000 foot view. They don't share a lot of stuff in common. And from my perspective, including the radical Islamic guys, they want government to boss people around, push them around. The Antifa wants decentralized stuff. I mean, it's just odd. It's put it this way, odd bedfellows is how I think.
That is true, but they all both want to be in charge. And if you think Antifa doesn't want to tell you what to do, you need to pay more attention. Of course they do. And Antifa's full of hypocrisies or contradictions, however you want to say it. Oh, eat the rich, but we'll take money from Soros.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take orders from Soros, and we'll take orders from Reed, from the guy who owns LinkedIn. And where do they get their money? They get their money from billionaires, the same people they claim they want to eat.
Yep. Yeah. So, Khalid, quick question before you speak further on this. My impression is that the radical Islamic groups look at Antifa as useful idiots, and that they're leveraging them that way because they're not particularly smart. They're not particularly, formidable as a force. It's a bunch of, misfits basically. And I think the jihadis plan on using them as their friggin' fall guys.
Well, if you remember, Chris, we talked about this early in October, end of September, how IRGC was going to use Antifa for low-intensity attacks in the U.S. If you go backwards to all the protests that were going on university campuses, people were dressing like Hamas fighters then. There was a normalization that started at that point of getting American minds used to seeing the Hamas uniform. Now, when Antifa takes the Hamas uniform, they've already seen it. They've already understood it. This is a freedom fighter. That's the mental click you want to create, that Hamas is a freedom fighter. Antifa is a freedom fighter. That's the level you want to get to. So once you can get people to start thinking that way, and your radical liberals are thinking that way, because that's why they supported Hamas during the university protest, because that was a freedom fighter. It was not a terror group, which is what Hamas actually is. So now you're trying to draw that parallel between freedom fighter Antifa, freedom fighter Hamas. We're supporting you because you're trying to end the fascism of Donald Trump in the United States. So you're trying to get that social push out of that.
Well, Jeff, I want to give you a chance to respond to that. And isn't what Antifa's, railing against fascism exactly what they're doing by doing what you suggested, where it's like you do it our way or the highway sort of thing, as far as the alphabet people and Antifa and stuff's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, because tyrannical, violent groups all end up in the same place. But I think what you're seeing too is you see the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and history is full of this. If you look at the Spanish Civil War, you had the quote unquote Republicans, which were not Republican. They were the communists, the socialists, the anarchists, the anti-Catholics were all together. And what happened was the Russians, the NKVD, the forerunner of the KGB, manipulated the crap out of everybody. They would use them to their advantage, and the minute they quit being useful, they killed them off. Yep. They were just consolidating power. And if you don't think that, okay, heaven forbid, the Muslims took over the United States, the extremists, the terrorists took over the U.S.
I forbid.
Okay, I forbid it too. But okay, in that
your last name's not Heaven. You said Heaven.
But in that bizarre situation, who do you think they would kill off first?
Yep.
It wouldn't be the Christians. I have news for you, because they want them to pay taxes. It would be all the gays and all the anarchists, all the people who had formerly been their allies, because they're like, okay, well, they're dangerous because they helped us win, so we better kill them off. Just like Hitler got rid of the SA because they got too powerful and they were a threat to him. He killed them off. The Russians or the communists in Spain knocked off the anarchists. They knocked off the socialists. They were the only ones left standing were the hardcore communists, and then Franco took care of them.
Yep. All right. So pretty good lead in for this next one. You said a few things there. You talked about the gays and the fascists and radical Islamic, component to all of this stuff. And lo and behold, the next story, Barack Obama fits the entire narrative that this guy's such a piece of shit. Worst thing that ever happened to America. Barack Obama says a quiet part out loud. It's time to experiment with new forms of journalism with government regulatory constraints. And he wants only his facts to be in the news as facts and everything else to be eliminated by the government. It's 1 minute, 27 seconds. I can't listen to this guy for that long, but I'll do my best to get as far through it as we can.
Part of what we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how do we use social media in ways that.
By the way, do you notice he talks the exact same way as Gavin Newsom? And I believe he was doing it before Newsom. Now Newsom has his, acting coach teaching him to act like a homo like this guy.
Reaffirm facts, separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. That, I think, is one of the big tasks of social media. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, some government regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment. But
that's impossible, and I can't listen to this crap any longer because I don't need to listen to it any longer. Jeff, I'm going to come back to you first here on this. So this is the guy who nuked the Smith-Mundt Act as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which happens every year, and he did it in 2012, that allowed government agencies inside of America to broadcast propaganda, and for news organizations, they didn't have to disclose where they got this information from in the government. And now he wants to restrict things to just his facts. Other than telling him to piss up a rope and get out of our freaking country, what else have you got to say about this guy?
Well, I mean, it's obviously unconstitutional, and he knows it. That's why he's saying within the constraints of the First Amendment. Well,
Right.
What he said is not within the constraints of the First Amendment. So, pound sand. But he's like Keir Starmer. We've had free speech in Britain for a long time. Well, you don't even have it now.
Right.
So, yeah, he's probably looking at what's going on in Europe saying, God, I wish I'd had that.
Well, and
people just need to tell him to basically fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. We've got an interesting one from Great Britain tonight that I'll share in a little bit, but another stabbing, people walking their dogs, and some piece of shit from a third world country stabs the guy, and there's video of it, and the UK Metro Police in Great Britain, who are threatening to come in and grab us in America if we post something on social media they don't like, they can fuck off too. Now they're saying to their citizens, don't post this. It's only going to cause more trauma if you post it. I posted it and I put right in it, y'all know what to do. Share this. So, Khalid, back to Obama.
Well, Obama did. I was watching. I think it was last night. I was watching a speech he did it at Stanford University on cyber policy, where he was talking about this quote unquote experiment he wants to run. Obama's got his head far up his ass. You don't get to determine what the facts are. The facts are things. The only thing that are facts is 1 + 1 = 2. That is a fact. That doesn't change. But everything else is a discussion that can change different ways of people understanding things real time. You cannot say, well, these are the facts and this is what you have to argue. The stabbing, we posted this afternoon when we saw it come through on our feeds, and we put a note down at the bottom saying, the UK police would rather that this not be shared with anyone. Please hit that retweet button and make sure this gets out to everybody so we can show the UK that Pakistan could not. We may have been a colony of yours at one point, but we are not anymore. And if you don't want this shared, we'll make sure it's from Pakistan. The guy was Afghani. The guy was an Afghan refugee who illegally entered the country, was told to leave the country and went and stabbed 3 people yesterday. And now the UK police wants to protect him? Are you kidding?
Yeah, straight up insanity. All right, moving on to the next one tonight's sit rep. Tulsi Gabbard drops a political nuclear bomb. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard just confirmed what the deep state never wanted you to know. Russia wasn't the only one sitting on explosive secrets. Barack Obama knew Hillary Clinton was mentally unfit for office and said nothing. The original intelligence report described Clinton's intensified psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, and heavy tranquilizers. Yet Obama withheld a national security threat from the American people and engineered a conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government, the very act they later tried to pin on Trump. A psychopath in the White House, sedated and shielded by the establishment. What could that have led to? Blackmail, espionage, World War III. The truth is darker than anyone imagined, and it's finally coming out. Well, I can tell you it's all those things quickly, because my friend Patrick Byrne was front and center in this. He's CEO of Overstock, took it from 0 to 2 billion a year in the blink of an eye. His father was Warren Buffett's partner and helped Warren Buffett make his first $1 billion. And Warren Buffett frequently credits him for that. But Patrick Byrne caught Hillary taking a $20 million bribe when she was Secretary of State from the Turks. And when he brought it back to John Brennan, who was Obama's boss, and shared this information because he was a Senate Intel Committee asset, they said, great work. Thank you for uncovering this. We're going to wire $18 million to you. And we want you to do it again. And we want everything documented beginning to end as far as Hillary accepting the $18 million, because what we're going to do is we're going to call her into the principal's office and tell her that she's going to be the president for 8 years and that she's going to do exactly what we tell her. And if she stays in line, the flame that they're going to put under her ass, Bunsen burner, will keep it low. But if she tries to step out of line, they'll turn the flame up on the Bunsen burner. Patrick Byrne broke stuff long before anybody else was talking about her being psychotic. So Khalid, I'll come to you first this time, then Jeff, as far as, disguising the mental illness of Hillary Clinton. She's bipolar.
This is nothing new. I mean, we all knew Clinton wasn't fit for office when she stood up as a presidential candidate. I think it's really interesting how I think it was yesterday, the U.S. Senate released a report from one of the committees saying all of the auto pen signatures are fake and the pardons are no longer valid, which creates a huge problem now for the Democrats. This is something that you guys, that the CIA has done with third world countries for decades now. You have paid them bribes and then use that bribe to manipulate them. Pakistan is full of it. Every one of our politicians has taken millions of dollars in bribes. But whenever they want something done, they say, okay, we'll charge you in the US because you used our money to buy these properties in America. So if you don't do what we tell you we're going to do, we want you to do it. And I'll give you an example. 2007, President Zardari was blackmailed by all of the accounts that Benazir Bhutto had. They literally, the NSA played a recording of Benazir Bhutto telling her son, in this country, we have this bank with this account number with this much money in it. And they played the whole thing for Zardari, who was president of the country at the time, and said, either you give us a clean approval to launch as many drone strikes in Pakistan as we want, or we take away all the money.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Absolutely crazy. Jeff, I mean, I got to ask you this just because you were in the intelligence community. Between the letter from 51 intelligence personnel saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was BS, and then things like this where it comes out that the intel community purposely hid information on Hillary Clinton being mentally unfit. I mean, what does it do to morale at those intel agencies that you were in? And what does it do as far as, believability, for lack of a better term, from the American people?
Well, with the Hillary thing, I don't think it was just the intel community. I think it was everybody in Washington, everybody in the Democratic Party. the leadership in the House and the Senate and everything else. They all knew it. Just like they all knew Biden his brain was mush. Yeah, did Brennan, was he in it? Yeah, I'm sure he was. Comey, absolutely. I'm sure they all were. But they were all cogs in the same machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, and they would change jobs. I mean, you look at, Leon Panetta was a senior official in the House of Representatives thing, but then he became director of CIA and the head of the State Department. And these are all people changing jobs. It's the same thing. It's like the old British thing. They shuffle their cabinet. They just take, okay, the defense minister is now the interior minister, and this guy is now that. The same people. They just have different portfolios. And we have that too. And people say we don't. We do. Look at the people. They're in this government, and they were in the previous government, and they were in the previous government in different roles. So it's like, come on. But as far as her being nuts, I think everybody knew she was nuts. And to be honest, if I was married to Bill Clinton, I'd probably be nuts too. But she's again a useful idiot. If she can get elected and they can manipulate her, great. I mean, that's been going on forever. They pick. How many times do you see these young, photogenic, or should say telegenic people, male or female, who can do well on a teleprompter and do all this, and then they get pushed to the front? I mean, Obama was like that. He was a community organizer, and then he became a freaking senator, or he became a state senator, and then a U.S. senator, and then the president. He had no experience. He was not uniquely qualified to do jack shit. But he was young, he was black, he was telegenic, and he spoke well. So they pushed him to the front. Do you think he made all those decisions by himself?
Oh, God, no. Everything from Patrick Byrne, who, met with these guys face to face multiple times when he was in Intel Asset. He said he watched Obama take direct orders from Brennan. Brennan was the bridge to the money kings behind the whole thing, but that's a deep rabbit hole that we don't have time to go down tonight. But we do have time to mention this one. FBI just dropped nearly 200 pages posted by House Judiciary proving the state Trump cases weren't state at all. The Biden DOJ and FBI ran it all through proxy attorney generals to cripple Trump, his lawyers, his electors, and the entire MAGA movement. This is one hell of a read. I downloaded it and dropped it into an AI to get, the gist of it. And this was nothing short of political persecution of the one guy who has the ability to derail the globalist and the cabal. You know what? I'll come to you first, Jeff, just because you're center screen. Are we going to see any accountability for this stuff?
I would like to, but I doubt it. But this is not new. Okay, we knew there was the senior DOJ official under Merrick Garland who quit or resigned, and then within 48 hours is working in New York on the Trump prosecution there. Gee, what a coincidence. We knew there was the prosecutor in Atlanta who, before filing the charges against Trump down there, which were of course later dismissed, they have phone records where he's calling the White House and calling the DOJ 48 hours before he drops the indictment because they're getting permission from mommy. All of these things. You think that when Colorado tried to keep Trump off the ballot, that was in a vacuum? No, of course not. They were doing this. They've been doing this from the get-go.
100%. Khalid, how is this any different than the corruption you mentioned in Pakistan? I think it might be worse here.
It's funny that the CIA now is doing what they did in foreign countries in the U.S. In the U.S., the treason laws apply to the CIA, and if you ask me, there shouldn't even be a case. Once you find the evidence on them, take them out back and give them lead poisoning. The only way to stop this is by doing something about it. If this happens and all of these cases are filed and it goes through the courts, Trump will have his presidency, the presidency will end, J.D. Vance will come into power. If no justice comes out of this, people are going to say, well, nothing's going to happen anyway, so let's do it again. And let's do it at a grander scale.
Khalid, isn't it like a rule of engagement or something that to actually do a battlefield execution, it has to be on the battlefield? No.
Well, there are different kinds of battlefields, Chris. Politics, battlefield is one.
I so saw that coming. Oh, you kill me. All right. So speaking of killing, truckload of aggressive research monkeys escape after truck crash in Mississippi. And when this was printed, it said 3 still on the loose. Now it's just 1. But these are monkeys infected with all kinds of things, not just COVID. And it said that, like, these were nasty monkeys to boot. Like, you know, they go after people and stuff. Crazy aside to that, our cabin in Georgia is at the end of a private road, at the end of a private driveway that's gated, at the very top of the mountain. And the property drops like this on 3 sides, and below us is what looks like something directly out of Jurassic Park. It's a 280-acre monkey rescue where they rescue monkeys from around the world who've been used for scientific experiments and stuff, right? You walk down there and they've got double layer electric fences that are like 30 feet tall. I swear to God, it looks like, you know, the Jurassic Park. But this is a crazy story. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not, Khalid, but it just made me shake my head when I read about it.
Research monkeys being released, we don't know what kind of research is being done on them and what kind of infection you're going to test they start spreading. Because to achieve what you're trying to do right now, either you need a major conflict in the US or you need another pandemic of some kind. And that's the only way you're going to be able to deploy what you want to deploy in the US right now.
Hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID is what they were infected with.
There you go.
Yeah. Jeff, I don't know if you got anything you want to add to that or not.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of herpes. There's a simian form of herpes, which is horribly fatal to humans.
No shit.
Yeah, herpes. It's not, you know, you get a cold sore on your lip, it kills you. It doesn't kill the monkeys necessarily, but it kills humans. When I was in Atlanta, there was at the Yerkes Primate Center, which was attached to, I think it's Emory University. They had a young girl, 20s PhD student, and the monkeys being monkeys, there's always fecal matter and urine flying everywhere. Well, she got some in the corner of her eye, and she got an infection. Went to the hospital. They misdiagnosed it because you don't see simian herpes every day. You never see it. And They gave her, I think, they gave her steroids to treat it, which was the absolute wrong thing. It's like throwing gas on a fire. And I think she was dead in 48 hours.
Wow.
It's a nasty. In fact, we looked at simian herpes as something to be leery of as a potential biological weapon. So if they have simian herpes, that's a big deal.
I learn something new every day. That's pretty crazy. So moving on to the next one, this is so damn evil, and that is an understatement. Seattle Children's Hospital combines their gender clinic with their autism center. They're convincing vulnerable autistic children they are transgender by telling them there's something wrong with them and putting them on hormones and puberty blockers. I want to spotlight one particularly dangerous gender clinic, and that is Seattle Children's Hospital. Not only does it state that gender interventions are life-saving and puberty blockers are reversible, but it partners with its autism center. Youth with autistic traits are overly represented in the exploding cohort of children and young adults adopting trans identities. They tend not to conform to rigid sex stereotypes, leaving them vulnerable to believing that there's something wrong with them. Combining the autism and pediatric gender centers provides a steady stream of patients for expensive and lifelong gender treatment. Seattle Children's is not alone in this marketing scheme. Seattle's Gender Clinic authored and the AAP published a perspective advancing the notion that refusing to modify a child's sex constitutes medical and emotional abuse. Not going to bother playing this video. Back to you, Jeff, just because you're center stage. When I first read this, my very first thought, Jeff, was they did this so that they have guinea pigs to do their surgeries on these, people who are easily duped, that are, maybe perhaps not mentally 100% with it. Who was the Nazi? Was it Goebbels? Or you're on mute, Jeff. Who was the Nazi again who did all the crazy experiments on
Josef Mengele.
Mendela.
Yep.
That's
Yeah. But they also did the Tuskegee here in the U.S. We did the Tuskegee experiments where they would inject poor black men with syphilis
Mhm.
and then tell them they were treating it, but all they were doing is just watching them die. They wanted to track the progression of the disease. And I think when you have, especially if you have autistic kids, and depending on where they are on the spectrum, if they're severely autistic, the parents are probably desperate for any kind of an answer to a solution to the problem. And there may not be one, but they're going to grasp at any straw. And if someone tells you your severely autistic boy is, well, he's this way because he's really a girl, so we need to transition him. And there are people, especially liberals, I hate to say it, who aren't that smart, who would desperately latch onto that and let it happen.
Yeah, agreed. Khalid, your thoughts? I think this is just setting up. It's a money thing, and they're experimenting.
Using children for experiments is probably it's the least human form of anything you could do.
Yeah.
And then taking autistic children and doing this with them. I'm sorry. I mean, you guys get pissed off when I say this, but I mean, these are people that deserve to be shot. You don't screw with people's kids. You don't do it. I mean, you're talking about the people who are literally on the beginning of their life, and you're going to screw them up for the next 20, 30 years, and using it as we're treating it as the excuse to do it.
Yeah, if they don't commit suicide by then, right?
Yeah.
Which is insanely high number. All right, so next one up, Sarah had made this post on terrorists are currently modifying sarin in Afghanistan. It's being ignored when it should be a priority. And outside of our channel, I haven't seen anybody talking about the sarin risk and being used in canisters and HVAC ductwork and soft targets like schools and stuff. So Apex Guard says in the TV series Homeland, Peter Quinn, CIA paramilitary operations officer, experiences a pivotal and traumatic sequence in season 5 in episode 10, New Normal. The terrorists test their sarin gas weapon on Quinn to create a propaganda video proving its lethality. So my understanding, let me just bring Jeff in because he's up to speed on this stuff. My understanding is 3 minutes exposure to these nerve gases like sarin, whether it be your skin or you breathe it in or your eyes, which absorb stuff faster than anything, and that it's fatal. Like you're done in about 3 minutes if it's concentrated indoors and not dissipated.
Well, lethal dose can be delivered, in a second. How long it takes you to die from it depends on how much and how you're exposed. If you inhale it, if it gets into your bloodstream through your lungs, you're toast within seconds. If it gets through your skin, it'll take a little longer, but you're still toast. And through a mucus, probably the fastest is through the lungs. Second fastest, everything through a mucus lining. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor on this. And third would be through cutaneous, through your skin.
Yeah, well, I'm not a doctor either, but I play one on a podcast. But eye membranes are one area where stuff can go systemic, just like that, whether it's fentanyl or otherwise. Khalid, tell me what the latest is as far as the scuttlebutt over there of these groups who fall under the Islamic Army and nerve chemicals like sarin. And there's others that don't dissipate near as readily as sarin, so therefore they're more dangerous. But just bring us up to speed on the latest on this stuff.
You've got here's where my issue starts. Is that you've got 3 chemical and biological weapons labs in Afghanistan that are run by Al Qaeda and the Taliban and the Haqqani network. There are 2 very well-known terrorists that are completely missing in action. And one is considered the godfather of anthrax. The other is considered the master of nerve weapons.
Wow.
Nobody knows where they are. No one knows where they are. They could be in Afghanistan. They could be in Indonesia. The last we heard that Ibrahim al-Sufet is in Indonesia someplace. And we got that from Indonesian intelligence that he's hiding in Indonesia somewhere. That guy is a nerve gas specialist. He can take literally a pen-size amount of nerve gas and kill you with it. And just to have these people roaming around and have these 3 chemical labs, biolabs running in Afghanistan, you are creating a weapon that will destroy populations very quickly. I remember in May when we put this out in our thread alert saying chemical weapons will be used, even if it's a 5% chance of chemical weapons being used. Please prepare for hazmat. Please prepare for chemical weapons. People laughed at us, said, no way, chemical weapons will not happen. We went, look, you don't know what we're seeing. We know what level Afghanistan is at. We know when Syria was handed over, 100 chemical weapons labs were handed over to Jilani. 100 chemical weapons labs.
Wow.
To basically the Al-Qaeda. And you're saying that this isn't going to happen? I mean, they have modified it. They have changed it. They have created new versions of it. What are you going to do? When this hits the U.S., you don't have a solution for it.
Khalid, what do you make of those guys, you know, the chemists, the masterminds being totally off the radar? If you had to speculate on those guys, what would you say?
They're in Afghanistan. They're not off the radar. They're in Afghanistan. They're being protected. We got a sniff on one that he was in the mountains in Tora Bora, where Al-Qaeda has a very large chemical weapon plant. And I mean, they are generating chemical weapons on the level of what you guys generate pharma in a pharmacy. That's the kind of factory they've got inside the Tora Bora. We have been told he's inside of there. And he is modifying chemicals. He has figured out a way to take life-saving pills that Americans take and contaminate those and get them into the production system in the U.S.
Man, that strikes me as crazy, because my understanding is that when the Chinese send the precursors to fentanyl to Mexico for the Sinaloa cartel and Hezbollah, they have this rudimentary way of mixing it together and turning it into fentanyl. But they have some labs in Canada, apparently somewhere around Vancouver, and the efficacy of the stuff coming from Vancouver is way stronger than the stuff coming out of Mexico.
Yep.
I think you've mentioned this place in Afghanistan before, right? Like these guys are
three or four times.
Super cutting edge, though, on the chemistry side.
We have seen video from inside that factory. I would put it on the level of Pfizer. What Pfizer is able to do in production, that's what they're able to do inside of Tora Bora. And they have so many different chemicals that they are running that it shocks us that the U.S. has not carried out an MOB strike on Tora Bora and taken that lab out.
Besides us sending money to the Taliban each week to the tune of 87+ million, who's putting money into this in your mind, Khalid? Who's funding this research?
Well, there's two that we know of. Qatar is pumping a lot of money in, and that's not a surprise to anybody. Qatar is pumping money in. There are members of the Saudi royal family that have been long tied with the terror groups back from when the Mujahideen existed. They are pumping money in. The Emiratis are also pumping money in because they've been closely tied with the Haqqani network. If you notice, when Haqqani was able to travel for the first time after all the bounties were removed from him, the first place he went was the UAE. And there was a reason for that, was to regenerate all those financial ties.
Yeah, just insanity. So we've got a couple more items left in the Command 11 sit rep, and then Mike Glover's backstage, so we'll bring him on shortly. But this one here, we've discussed it a little bit this week already. I discussed it Sunday night on my personal podcast. Because of the government shutdown, now I can't get my food stamps next month. How am I going to feed my 7 kids? I have 7 different baby daddies, and none of them are no good to me. It is the taxpayer's job to make sure this happens. What is y'all's reaction to this one? So 15 seconds. Obviously, I'm going to play the whole thing.
Because of the government shutdown, now I can't get my stamps for next month. How am I going to feed my 7 kids? I have 7 different baby daddies, and none of them no good for me. It's the taxpayer's job to make sure this happens. So taxpayers, y'all out there, I need y'all to make this happen next month.
So there's a plethora of videos like this, from black women and black men. I haven't seen any from white people threatening people. I'm not saying they're not out there. I just haven't seen them. I mean, I think this was engineered by the Democrats for sure, because how many times you heard me say we're never more than 3 missed meals away from anarchy? There was a girl here in Florida that was spotted on X the other day ago and said she's just going to hang out in the grocery parking lot and take whatever she wants from white people at gunpoint, sort of thing. This is we've created a monster here that depends on our tax money and thinks that they deserve it.
Yeah, but that entitlement, I mean, there's a reason these are called entitlement programs, because you create an entitlement that I deserve it. I mean, for God's sake, she says herself, she's got 7 different baby daddies. You got involved with 7 men who gave you 7 children who can't even support the kid. Not one of them can support the kid they were father to, and you expect the government to pay for that? I mean, that's not. I hate saying it this way, but at some point, the spade and neuter needs to be brought into humanity, where when you start having kids and you're using that to get more money from the government, and that's literally what these families are doing. They're having kids to get more money from welfare. Those kids aren't getting any benefit from the money, but
Yeah.
more money comes to the family because they have so many kids.
True story. True story. Jeff, what are your thoughts? I said to my wife, I said, no going to the grocery without me starting this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the same boat. I'm going to be, carrying, and I'm going to go with her. And I've seen when there was a young, healthy, clean-cut black guy, had 4 kids that he was taking care of. I don't know where the mother was, but he was like, y'all got to take care of me. And it's like, no, we don't. Get off your lily white ass, or black ass in this case. Get off your ass, get a job, support your children. It is not our job to feed your kids. No one's feeding my kids. I fed my kids. And I'm not against helping people, but when they have this attitude that they aren't responsible for any of it, is what pisses me off. Now they're complaining because Trump wants them to work at least 20 hours a week before they get any benefits. I'm saying, well, why only 20? Should be more.
Yeah, then I saw one where the guy's like, I'm not working for anything. I don't have to. It's the taxpayer's responsibility to look after me.
It's like, well, okay, great, then starve. And I really don't care. I'm a libertarian in that when people say to be a true libertarian, you got to be able to step over the man in the gutter. I'm like, well, I can do that.
Fair enough. All right, last one before we bring Mike Glover on stage. This is the video that the Metro UK police do not want anybody posting it. So, of course, I posted on my X and asked people to share it. In London, an illegal Afghan migrant brutally stabbed a man walking his dog. He also injured a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy. The Afghan migrant had entered the UK illegally in a truck in 2020 and was later granted asylum and residency in 2022. Neighbors say the 49-year-old dog walker, Wayne Broadhurst, was killed after allegedly intervening to stop the attack on the man and the boy. Paramedics tried to save Broadhurst's life, but he died at the scene. Police said the 45-year-old victim suffered serious injuries, while the 14-year-old boy was also wounded, but is now in stable condition. Authorities confirmed the attack is not being treated as terrorism. I mean, who knows? We could end up getting whacked by YouTube for this one. God knows they whack us for enough stuff as it is. But I don't think we can hide this stuff. I don't think anybody benefits by hiding this. There's no audio with it, but it's pretty friggin' brutal. I counted 17.
Yeah.
Just in that small snippet. So coming back to you, Jeff, since you're center stage, I personally think that Europe is lost, especially the UK and France.
UK is done. And I saw something on X today, and someone go, "Oh, there's going to be a civil war in the UK." I go, "With what? Butter knives and spoons? They don't have guns. What are they going to fight with? The only ones that have guns is the government." So it's just, again, big advertisement for the Second Amendment here, and also good advertisement for why I don't give a shit what the Democrats do if and when they ever come into power again vis-a-vis guns. I'm going to ignore it.
Let me give you a follow-up question to that. There was a young girl, and I'm trying to remember what country she was from. She had a little bit of an accent. I think it may have even been a Eastern European country, has filed for asylum here over this invasion that's been happening in Europe. And apparently she's the first one. She's the first person from Europe who's filed for asylum based on, this migrant invasion. What are your thoughts on that? I think there's probably millions of people in Europe who would give up their eye teeth to come here as asylum refugee seekers.
Well, do background checks on them. If they aren't criminals and they have a marketable skill, well, let them in. It's better than letting in millions of people that we have no freaking clue who they are, and most of them, a lot of them are, violent criminals anyway. And again, I'm pro-immigration. I just say we need to look at who we let in.
I think if we let a massive number of traditional Europeans into America, would actually make us stronger.
Oh, I do too.
Much like the waves after World War I and World War II.
Well, if you look at the Europeans, the Eastern Europeans that came to the United States, either during the Cold War or right after the Cold War, they were some of the most patriotic, conservative, proud to be American people you can imagine. My wife worked with a woman from Czechoslovakia named Yada, and they were in the newspaper business, and they were the only two conservatives in the entire organization. And my wife said, Yada made me look like a New Deal Democrat. She was militantly conservative because she had lived under communism. She knew what the other side was like.
Was her daughter's name Yada, Yada, Yada?
No.
Just wondered. So, Khalid, I want to just get your thoughts before we move on to the main topic of the night. I mean, if you were in charge of London, if you're in charge of England, what course correction would you make? And do you think that it's even savable if you took extreme measures?
It is savable. I mean, you've got 20 countries in the EU that have now decided that they want a more expedited process to deport Afghani, specifically Afghani migrants into European countries. Europe is now figuring out, and America will soon figure it out, that what Pakistan's been dealing with for 40 years from the Afghan population is now being felt everywhere else. This population brings crime with them. This population brings a level of entitlement with them when they come to your country. If you remember the Fairfax police shooting, the guy, the Afghan soldier they pulled over, and he was screaming and yelling about how he should have stayed in Afghanistan and dealt with the Taliban instead of coming to America for you fucking Americans. At the end of the day, what did he do? He pulled a gun and got shot by the police. But that entitlement exists in that population, and every crime you see, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in the U.S., connects back to Afghanistan. 20 countries in the European Union are now fighting to get an expedited deportation process specifically for Afghani migrants.
Very interesting.
And I think there's one part of that people aren't noticing too. Is you'll see some of those people have Pakistani passports, but they're still Pashtus.
Yep.
They're Pakistani Pashtus, and the Pashtus and the people in Afghanistan are the problem. And I don't mean to disparage all Pashtus. I've known some that were good folks.
Okay.
But most of the problems in Afghanistan are with the Pashtus. And when the Pashtu population crosses the border, there's a big chunk of Pakistan which is populated by Pashtus, and that's your Taliban. The Taliban are 90% Pashtu. They're not Hazaras. They're not Tajiks. They're not Uzbeks. They are Pashtus.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
just to add on, I mean, being a Pashtun myself, we are fed up with these people that come across the border and have that sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
When you look at the Taliban right now, there are Tajik groups inside of the Taliban, but they are separated from the core Taliban group. So there's no the Pashtuns in Afghanistan are probably the smallest population that controls Afghanistan. Yeah. Because they believe they're entitled to control Afghanistan. If you were to let the minorities take over Afghanistan, you would have a more educated, more culturally diverse and rich Afghanistan compared to what we have to deal with right now.
And there were a lot of peace-loving, educated Pashtus. And now Karzai, I know, was corrupt as the day is long, but he wasn't a militant, let's go out and kill everybody kind of guy. He was, I want to line my pockets kind of guy, and he did. But when he was selected, let's be honest, to be put in place because they wanted someone who was both kind of pro-Western, pro-civilization, for lack of a better word. You know, girls were allowed to go to schools. They had, women didn't have to wear the burqas in public, anything like that. And he was Pashtun, but he was the moderate Pashtun, which is what you wanted. But he got replaced by the extremist Pashtuns, the Mullah Omar crowd, and that's the problem.
Yep.
Yeah. I appreciate that additional insight from both of you. I'm actually just going to play this very, very short clip, and we'll wrap up the sit rep on this, and then we'll bring Mike on stage. Whether you choose violence or not, it's coming to you. You either fight back or you die. Elon said this when he was on Tommy Robinson's podcast with regards to this violence that we're seeing in the UK that's been there for quite some time. 25 seconds.
Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Today, Elon, I think the British public are telling the world that they're ready to fight back.
So interesting comments on his part. He's a big fan of Tommy Robinson. That's not even his real name. But Jeff, appreciate your time. We'll see you tomorrow evening for the next episode. And before we pivot into the next section here with Mike, just want to quickly mention one thing. We are currently running a membership promotion. It ends Friday night at midnight. And if you go to our Substack, survivaldispatch.news, and you click on this top one right here, Fall Readiness Drive, 30% off memberships until Friday night for the first 100 people who sign up. After that, it goes to 20%. And in here, there's links where you can click on to sign up. It tells you what all the values are of joining it. But essentially, at the end of the day, you get access to 4 super busy Signal Intel chats. A couple of them are read only, so it's easy for you to find the information you want. You get direct access to the SDN team. You get SDN's alerts, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. So they go to your email, they go to our Substack, they go to a Signal channel. They also go to the POC link radios. There's a group on there as well, which is pretty slick. You get behind the scenes content. You get $370 in e-magazines. You get full sit reps, full sources, and you get early access to a bunch of content as well. So with that out of the way, let's bring Mr. Glover on stage. Mike, how you doing?
Good. What's up, guys?
Living the dream. One nightmare at a time. All right. So I appreciate you joining us, Mike, and I'll just give the audience the heads up on this. So again, we are post 9/11 2.0 in this scenario, and the main topic is building trust. How do you build trust amongst people when so many people have been killed and you have ongoing terrorist attacks? So essentially community resilience, for lack of a better term. So how do you vet people that you didn't know before SHTF? How do you improve your odds of bonding with them, maintaining trust with them, allies in a very fractured society? Because in my estimation, that post 9/11 2.0 with a bunch of ongoing terrorist attacks and Patriot Act 2.0, it's going to be a bit of a, everybody for themselves sort of thing. So we already have issues trusting neighbors. People don't even introduce themselves. Heck, we got people in our neighborhood. We wave at them. They look at us like we got 3 eyes growing out of our skull. It's just crazy. But from a survival imperative, you have strength in numbers. You have to partner up. You have to get into mutual assistance groups and those sort of things. And I would say that the resilience starts with vetting people first and foremost. So observing what their behavior is, asking questions that aren't super obvious, but give you an idea where they stand on things. If they have had a Kamala sign in their yard, they're probably not going to get along with you if you had a MAGA sign on your yard, sort of thing. But I think at the very least, you should be looking at, a group of 3 to 5 households in your community to have enough strength to kind of survive these dangerous times that are almost upon us. And then you also have to implement frameworks, including communication. So it's ironic, with the POC links, which, by the way, today's the last day you can get free global coverage for your POC link radios for life. There's links down below for POC link. after this, you will end up having to pay between $29 and $65 a year for the SIM card for each of them. But, communications is just part of a bigger, thing here. So Mike, I'm going to come to you right away and get the basics from you. Let's say somebody lives in a neighborhood, they have not socialized with anybody in their neighborhood. How do you get something like this off the ground? And how do you get it off the ground before 9/11 2.0 potentially hits between now and spring?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, one, from my experience, politics, I've experienced this in war and also in peacetime. Politics, they go out the window really fast when people are dealing with desperate times and desperate measures. And the reason that is because this tethering to this persona is the first thing that goes away when your kids are starving, or when you're potentially not capable of defending yourself because you didn't pay attention. You get real friendly real fast. I've experienced it in the backcountry with groups of people doing resilience training where everybody's yapping their mouth, and then they see who's really capable, and then they go, oh, it's easy for me to shuffle the deck immediately and go, well, this dude's super capable. This person is not. This person's in charge. This person is not. The best practical application is an immersive experience. One of the most effective strategies in Afghanistan was village stabilization operations, where you would live in the community. Green Berets did that the entire time, which is why we had good rapport. But even when they forced us into bases, we would migrate and spend the night in the villages or in the towns, because that's where you got to know people. And when you started to break bread and, shake hands and meet families, there was, I would say, like a shortcut to rapport because of that relationship. So if I walk up on your front doorstep and I meet your kids, it is a very different position and relationship, because I know where you live. I know your vulnerabilities. I know you have little kids that are going to be a liability in the worst case scenario. And likely I know all your weaknesses by meeting you. That is more impactful and effective than any strategy. We just hit it too late as a tactic. But it's just what needs to be done in your community. So getting outdoors, getting into your neighbor's yard, knocking on doors and figuring things out by talking, that's the way you're going to be able to bridge the gap. And it happens relatively fast. You see it happen in natural disasters and catastrophes, where immediately people start getting nice. Now, there's going to be evil doers and just crappy people. That's where you start to separate the good from the bad, is based on your interactions. And some people just are begrudging and they don't want to build rapport. That's fine. They'll be the first to die, or they'll be the first to be the person that you're going to oppose.
So that makes me think of a question before I go to Cleed. Let's say it's immediately after a calamity, minutes after a terrorist attack, or the hurricane has cleared the area, and you don't know a bunch of these people in your neighborhood, but people are, say, outdoors, communicating with each other for a change. What do you look for in people that are still under the stress of an attack just happening minutes before that kind of indicate, hey, this might be an all right person for me to team up with? That's for you, Mike.
Oh gosh. Say that again.
Sorry.
Completely sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I was just saying, if let's say the calamity just happens, like the terrorist attack just happened, okay? And people are now interacting with each other because, the shit's hit the fan. What should they be looking for in other people when they're observing other people that would communicate to them that, hey, I should probably, speak to that guy, or I should probably try to, strike up a friendship with that person? What are some of the things people can look for immediately after a calamity that indicates somebody else is probably a good ally?
Well, I mean, I've said it before on here. If somebody has a family, they're very different than somebody who does not have a family. Like when your priority is protecting your children, you could get the sense that don't get the false impression that a person who has a family is a nicer person. They actually might be the desperate one. They might be more aggressive and more likely to stab you in your back because they're going to fend for their family. So there's a whole bunch of behavioral dynamics, just posturing and gesturing and communication that you could identify. But one of the things is initial rapport. And I would say what they did for a living. I mean, if somebody has no capability whatsoever because their profession didn't give them those tools, well, then you're going to know when rubber meets the road, they're not potentially going to be a formidable threat or foe to you. So, it's hard to say because I would tell you that like the lone person is likely not to be the threat, but that's false. Serial killers are typically working alone, right? So it's hard to tell, but I would base it off body language, communication, their willingness to open their doors and communicate to you, and then also their lack of hesitancy. The more hesitant somebody is, that's their initial telltale that they don't want to potentially open their doors. And the more you press them, the more likely there is to be a conflict. If I go up to somebody and I say, hey, it's a sales pitch. You go up there and you're like, hey, look, I think we could work together. My name is Mike. I'm a Green Beret and we could do this thing together. And they're immediately like, they're pushing back and they're resisting. I'm not even going to waste my time. I want the people who are like, thank God, I'm a doctor. I could do the medic stuff. You could do the killing, and we could work together. That's what you want. You want somebody who's bought in from the onset, who's willing to be like open-minded about it.
That's great advice. Khalid, same question for you. What do you look for in people? You're observing people immediately after the calamity ends, like a terrorist attack, that says that's somebody I want to be, friends with. I want to be an ally with.
Well, I'll take it out of the terror attack because we've had a lot of natural disasters here in Pakistan. We've had earthquakes that we've sent our teams, we've gone ourselves and helped people dig out of earthquakes. The first person you're going to meet is the one who wants something, because as soon as a new person enters, they understand this is someone bringing something for me. So that's the first level you're going to meet is the needy. They are not people you want to work with because they are looking at you as someone who can satisfy their need. Gotcha. You need to start looking for people who are working within the community. And Mike's right. When you spend time with people, when you break bread with people, you develop a trust level. But that trust level comes from people who are willing to talk. We've trained all of our guys in micro expressions so that they understand that little snarl behind the statement, the eye flick before a word comes out of their mouth, because those are things you can't hide. Those are things that are automatically in your system as a human being. But when you have that level of training to understand micro expressions, that will tell you what someone's thinking before they open their mouth. Before they show you that smile, you may say that first and then the smile will come to the face. That this is somebody that is thinking something else and showing you something differently. It's one of those things that's a behavior you'll only be able to expose when you understand how to sit down and talk to someone. And it's like we said before on the broadcast, when you ask questions, people reveal themselves. When you're talking to them, they're just listening. When you ask a question, they will reveal something to you.
Yeah, great advice. So Mike, I want to pull something up here quickly. And let me get Mike on stage here. So before we wrap up the first segment, just because this relates to immediately after a calamity, Caitlin Rivers, post 9/11, so 1.0, the more officials tried to reassure the public, the more the public was distrustful. The trauma of the terrorist events and the displacement from their housing, work, and schools exacerbated their anxiety and made them even more dubious about government assurances. Curious to get your thoughts on that, Mike, when the government is less and less trusted, kind of like FEMA and how they handled Hurricane Helene, Katrina, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on government messaging?
Well, I don't think anybody trusts the government at all. I mean, I think they've lost complete trust. And, it would be hard to reverse any trust, especially given the fact that if an attack just took place, you would literally just write off the government completely. That would be my best advice to everybody. Write off the government completely, because all of their priorities are not going to be your priorities. The government's not going to be worried about protecting your family in your town. It's the least of their worries. And so you need to reprioritize and reshift your focus on not worrying about government and worrying about how you're going to survive for however long. I think the government, I did a podcast on this on Mike Force last night about the over governance, over policing, over taxing, over regulating, and it's out of control. The government right now federally spends 24% total of America's GDP. If you get up to about 30%, that's the threshold in which you dissolve all liberties and freedoms, because you're basically a state-sanctioned operation. And when you look at where we're headed and why everybody's so concerned or should be concerned, is because the government's focus is not the American citizen and the livelihood of you and me. It's the next campaign, war, portfolio, stock option, how to net as much profit as possible. And that's why I don't think you should bank on anything the government's putting out. In fact, as a campaign strategically, I know it's in the planning in the playbook. If something happens, they're going to put out propaganda and false information in order to manipulate the population to make it seem like everything's fine when it's not. And so, yeah, I would steer away from any government media outlet communication, because it's going to be propaganda.
I mean, that's funny. We didn't talk about this. We didn't have like a pregame conversation. Sets up Khalid perfectly, though, because my question to you, Khalid, is what is your advice to people when it comes to the legacy media? Because they're going to be publishing shit and people are going to believe it when it's exactly what Mike just said, propaganda and manipulation.
Well, the legacy media is propaganda right now. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, everyone has an agenda, and the legacy media is the platform to spread that agenda. When an attack happens, when something goes wrong, the legacy media is going to fabricate whatever information they need to fabricate to get their agenda out there faster. The bigger problem is on social media, because on social media you have unconfirmed reports, and this is why I tell people that, look, this is a time when you start to build the people you trust on social media. Start following them, start watching what they post, follow them for a week. Look at how they're handling the conversation. If they can give you information that is credible, on time, and gives you guidance, stay a follower. If they turn into a propaganda machine, dump them, because they're not going to be of any help to you in a problem. But the first line of warfare for the government is the legacy media, whether it be CNN, Fox, MSNBC. That's going to be the first line. They're going to start pumping out their message. Look, if the Democrats hadn't done this, we would have been able to handle this. I'll even go to this point. I wouldn't even trust most of the federal agencies. Kash Patel challenged Joe Kent because he was looking into FBI files that connected foreign influence to Charlie Kirk's murder, and they had a confrontation with each other. Are you kidding me? This is the same Kash Patel who is telling FBI agents that the 9/11 attack is clickbait. And you're going after Joe Kent now because he was looking into foreign influence in the Charlie Kirk murder. Are we supposed to trust the FBI? Are we supposed to trust FEMA? Are we supposed to trust the government when this is what's going on in Washington?
Yeah, a great answer and awesome points there, Khalid. I would point out, just because it actually makes sense, so this is not necessarily a shameless plug, but our Guardians network that we have is now across the country. So we have eyes and ears across the entire country. We average between 12 and 15,000 messages per week in our main signal chat, the Guardians. Then we have another signal chat called the Crusaders, where we have a news team of 12 people. All they do is post news and intel, so it's easy to find information. Then we have another one called the SDENS channel, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System, where only admins can post to it, but that sends warnings out to everybody, email, Signal, POC radios, the whole 9 yards. I would say, in my opinion, and I think both of you would agree, people already trust people like us more than the legacy media now as it is, because we don't have a dog in the hunt. We don't make more money. We don't have anything in it by lying and spreading propaganda. If you don't sign up for Survival Dispatch, try and sign up with somebody else, though, who has eyes and ears across the country like we do. Then you'll be able to get the truth. And that's probably the only way you're going to get it, because of, eyes on the ground, so to speak. So let's move into segment number 2.
Can I add, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Just let me put you back.
If you notice in our Guardian group, when the Amazon attack was going on today, where grocery stores and stores and different banks were going offline because of the DDoS attack that was running on Amazon, our Guardian group was covering it live. They were telling you where it was spiking, what stores were down, what banks were down. We have an amazing system running on Guardian. And we plug it so much because it's real information. It's people who are actually experiencing it and telling you right then and there, this is what's happening in this area.
Well, and I would add to that the people who were sharing that information are technology professionals who work in the fintech industry, so financial technology industry. We've got people that work in the government. We've got everything you can imagine. And these are people who are hands-on experts with technology that were reporting in. So basically, let's just say somebody, formed an opinion. They read something on social media that said, oh, it's a Chinese cyber attack. All hell's fixing to break loose. We have the people in our groups to say, no, listen, that's not what's going on. This is what's going on. We're on the front lines of this, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it just seemed like a perfect time to mention it. But let's move into segment number 2, vetting, figuring out who's solid in the rubble. So, the dust settles and you're trying to figure out who to team up with if you haven't done it ahead of time. And I think you got to start by watching some of the basics, is my thoughts. Like, when somebody needs to borrow something like a tool, for example, does the neighbor say, yeah, sure, here, go ahead and use it? Or do they hoard everything that they've got? Because I think that's a pretty good indicator of where somebody's head is at. And then I think you use Khalid's strategy of just having, off the cuff chats where you're probing, but you're not probing forcefully. You're not grilling them, but you're waiting to hear what they've got to say on a particular topic. And most people, it's lost on them that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That's because God intended us to listen twice as much as we speak, and that loose lips sink ships and people will say stuff. But I think that there's patterns, at that point that you can start to identify of who's reliable, or at least has the potential to be reliable as far as being an ally. How did they react under stress is a big thing. Did they freeze up? Did they go into code black? Did they lose their mind? I mean, all of those things would be good indicators. Myself, I don't want any SSRI popping junkies on my team, so to speak. I don't want anything to do with them because they're mentally unstable. But I'm going to come to you first on this, Mike. It's kind of repetitive for what we covered with your questions last time, but let's hone it down. Is there one quality in a neighbor that if you saw it, you would think to yourself, that guy needs to be in my group? Just one thing.
Well, I would say out of all the things, a person being physically fit in this kind of situation is just an indication of a lot of different things, right? Somebody who's perceived as being in shape likely watches his diet, likely has discipline, likely has good time management skills, likely has a successful job. I mean, when I did stay behind missions in Iraq, we do sniper stay behind missions. It's really interesting because I just talked to a SEAL Team 6 guy when I was at this Ibogaine experience, and he literally told me the same thing that we were doing. He was just doing it with the Navy, and I was just doing it with the Army. We started to select houses based on their proximity to the target, which is common sense, right? You want to be able to see the target. Because they were such suckfest, like spending 3 or 4 or 5 days inside of a home that has no enhanced capability no electricity, no air, no insulation, basically living out of a rucksack at an MRE, you were degraded in your capability. Then we started down selecting homes based on how beautiful the home was. Because if you went into a beautiful home, the family members there would feed you because they were really nice, because they built their wealth or built their success based on building rapport with each other, not isolating themselves. We would have air conditioning, good meals. We could sleep on rotation, and then we would be capable the entire time. I'm not saying don't necessarily do this, because it depends on where you live, but you don't go into the hood looking for allies. You don't go into Section 8 housing to look for allies. You go into nice areas where there's nice homes, and then squared away people. And when you have squared away people, you typically have professionals, typically young professionals, that are going to have a specific skill set that's going to benefit you when you're making the A team. And that's what I recommend. I mean, it's called A team, and I grew up with that in the 80s with the show, but it's a derivative of a Vietnam experience of an alpha team, a Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha, SFODA, that has an ODA full of skill sets. That's what you want to build.
I've got another question for you before we go to Khalid, but I do want to say one thing. For me, the one thing that would tell me this is a guy I want to have in my group is if I asked him, you see that neighbor that lives about a quarter mile away, have you ever put a rangefinder on it? And if the answer is yes, then I probably want that guy in my group.
My rangefinder's on my tripod on the back deck right.
So Mike Glover can recite the exact distance to any of his neighbors' properties. Hundreds of yards away. Just so
a
you
wild
know.
guess is 763.
Man, you must have like a bionic eye or something like that. So the next question for you, Mike, is you've been in a lot of hairy situations, combat deployed multiple times. Have you ever misjudged somebody's vibe, like early on, like immediately after a crisis, and then all of a sudden, you know, a little bit further down the road, thought to yourself, holy shit, I judged that person wrong?
I have. I mean, remember, like the point of a Green Beret is to build rapport, and often we're working with former terrorists or terrorists, and we're trying to bridge these gaps. To be honest, and I just saw this on a motorcycle show that I watch called Itchy Boots, where she travels all over the world. She was in Afghanistan, and some of the nicest dudes I've ever met were Taliban commanders. And it's because in their world, they were kind of like the commander, the god that everybody looked up to, and they didn't have any egos. And they were very religious, and they were very conservative. And if you think about the ideals and how that aligns with my personal values, it's closer aligned than some of the radical leftists in the country. And I don't want to be an enemy sympathizer, but there's a time and place. And,
you mean something like that? You mean something like that, Mike? In that type of
yeah. Like, I mean, there's a reason why the GWAT vet comes out and says, like, they highly respected the enemy, because the enemy at least had a task and purpose and an idea and understanding of what they were willing to commit to. They weren't fringe for the sake of being fringe. They had a compelling argument and ideology that led them in their direction. And so I used to always judge them like, who's this scumbag? And then you get to talk to him, you're like, oh, that dude's just like me, except he's fending for his family in an echo chamber in the middle of the Hindu Kush. And it's like, if I was him, I would be in the same exact position, except that would do my job a little bit better. You know, it's like, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like, and I've heard World War II vets say it when I was young in the Army. I've heard Vietnam vets say it, and I've certainly heard GWAT vets saying it if they're being honest.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that experience. Khalid, just because, I mean, you grew up here in America, you've been in Pakistan for a number of years, you're fixing to come back this way. How do cultural differences play into the whole vetting process? Because,
oh my God.
Well, let me give a great example. You're Muslim. I'm not. I'm Christian, but we have a lot of stuff in common, even though we come from, you know, different cultures, but you have some American culture from growing up here as well. It's got to play a role, I would think, in most people's, you know, processing.
Well, we always tell people that whatever you learned, and this is something that I had to do when I came to Pakistan. I had to give up my understanding of how Americans operate, because the way the American mentality is, the way the American behavior pattern is, it's not the same way on this side of the world. Here, it's very normal for someone to get very excited when they talk, and a lot of hand gestures and bouncing around. That's part of their culture here. In the US, it's very calm, very cool, very regulated conversation. Here, somebody gets excited. Oh, you don't know what's going on in it. You have to get used to that here. It took me a year to understand that. Then when we started working inside of Afghanistan in 2007, when we started operating inside of Afghanistan, we had to learn their culture. And Mike's right. When you go into the mountainous areas, the people that are there, you will connect with them very quickly. At first, you'll be looking at them from the corner of your eye going, I don't trust him. And when you sit down and break bread and talk to them and you get to know them, you start going, yeah, this guy, if I was in the same place, I'd be doing the same thing. The problem again becomes people that you're dealing with. You have to figure out who's the needy one, who's looking at you to satisfy a need, and who's actually going to be a friend to you. We have deployed a number of assets into different conflict zones, and every asset we talk to speaks to us in the same language. They tell us the same thing. The problem that we have, and this is what my assets say to me, the problem we have is that we have so many people that are playing double games with us. They are telling us what they want us to know, but they're not telling us what the real picture is. And when you start dealing with people after a terror attack, the first people that you're gonna hit are people that are gonna be overexcited. They're going to be caught up in what they're stuck in and what they do next. Those are the people that need guidance. They're not the people you bring into your team. The people you bring into your team are the ones that are standing there and being able to provide help. There are people that are able to give something back without giving from themselves. That's a key point to understand. Giving something back without giving something from yourself. You're not giving money. You're not giving food. You're giving aid and assistance. That's a very key thing to understand. Those are the people you need to be looking to partner with. And cultural differences right there, it comes out.
That's awesome advice for sure. I like this comment from Patriot We Run Seas. There was a YouTuber dressed Indian headdress, went to ICE protest, told protesters he loved ICE, said he was trans indigenous, and for ICE to get them deported off of his land. Oh, it's good to see some people still have a sense of humor. So let's jump into segment number 3. So going past those initial phases and bonding and, you know, turning this shared pain from terrorist attacks into solid ties to others. So at this stage now, let's say you have some vetted folks in your group, in your mix, and, you know, you're doing things together. You're doing community projects together. And it could be as simple as clearing debris, right? Clearing debris from a hurricane, common thing here. Mike knows that. He lived here at one point in time as well, that your good neighbors will help each other out with that stuff. Whereas I can tell you that we have tried to help people clear their stuff after a hurricane before. Jake and I, Cindy's youngest son, we were in my truck. We were driving around looking to see where we could help out by taking away some debris and stuff like that. So we started loading this debris into the back of my truck. And this guy started cussing at us, telling us to get the F off his property and everything like that. And we're like, hey, we're just trying to help you clean up here and, you know, get this stuff out of here. And he was having none of it. So it's pretty crazy where some people's heads are, you know, when it comes to stuff like that. But anyway, I think that working side by side with people to accomplish something is how you take the bonding to the next level sort of thing. And some people, maybe they can't work with their hands for whatever reason. Those people then who are the ones who always come out and say, here, I made sandwiches for y'all. You know, I've got this, you know, I've got some fresh tea here, et cetera, et cetera. That I think just continues to, you know, gain momentum with the good people after the thing has happened. Right. And then I also think that leads to, you know, casual stuff. It's not just all about work. Hey, do y'all want to come over for dinner tonight? You know, talking about, they find out they have a whole bunch of friends in common that they never knew because they haven't been talking to their neighbors, which is par for the course here, 2025. But I think that, in my opinion, from a community resilience standpoint, the longer it goes on where you have to help each other, the deeper the bonds get, the more you can trust them. And we get back to something closer, maybe that resembles the 1950s, more like Leave It to Beaver sort of world, which was a far better point in time. So, Mike, I want to come to you because whether the calamity is a terrorist attack or a hurricane, you've been through both. What are some of the activities, like go-to activities, where you've seen complete strangers come together to do something, and when the thing was done, when they were done doing whatever this activity was, that you could tell that the bond was already starting to grow between them?
Well, it just depends on the timeline and the disaster. The initial response is really important because that's where you'll build initial rapport. If you see somebody and they're in an accident, I for some reason, this has happened to me a lot, and you give directives because it seems like you're in charge, even though I was not, because I wasn't like a firefighter. As I'm pulling people out and saying, do this, do this, do this, immediately they're listening because they fit into this structure of like, hey, we need to help, and whatever is going on, this dude looked like he's in charge, and whatever he says, I'm going to listen to. That kind of thing happens very rapidly. It could be somebody trapped underneath debris in a tornado. It could be, pulling people out of a river using ropes. All of these things happen really fast. And then subsequently after that, once the initial rapport is built, you start to build a relationship and the connect points. It's like, hey man, thanks so much for helping out. Like, where are you from? I live across the river. Yeah, I live down the road. Okay, let's stay connected. Let's meet up every single day here at 1700 at 5 o'clock and just do a meeting to figure things out. If you guys need anything, I have some firewood and a chainsaw and a gas powered generator. Just let me know. It's like, oh, cool. I got food and I got water. We store it inside of a shipping container. If you guys are hungry, just come on over. And that kind of rapport happens really fast, but you need to keep that group in small numbers, very small numbers. The idea of going out and just plucking an A team of 12 individuals, don't do that. Keep it small to a handful, less than a handful, a few families and groups, because that's how you'll be able to interoperate the best. And then as you start building that rapport, again, you're going to do community projects. That will be important. But what's more important is squaring away your own families. You might consolidate, which would be smart to do. And if you do consolidate, well, it's like, hey, we're going to set up a checkpoint. We're going to do security. We're going to have one man up, everybody else down. And this is the protocol. Start making your hasty plan very rapidly. And that's going to benefit everybody. I think, there's a lot to be done in a disaster. One of the best things that you could do out the gate is to task organize. Start finding who's who in the zoo, and then establish leadership, and then give people specific duties and responsibilities. That gives them a sense of purpose in chaos and makes them more focus driven.
So let's think in terms of households in your neighborhood. Are you talking, 2 additional households, 3, 4, like what's the range? No, I'm not expecting a hard number, but is it like 3 or 4 households?
It's 2 to 3 additional households.
2 to 3.
Yeah, because the problem you run into is like if one of the households out of the 3 that you've taken on, they haven't planned or prepared at all, the other 3 households can take care of that one household. But if you get more than 3 additional households, let's say you get 6, and then there's 2 or 3 homes that need to be taken care of, the ratios just don't work out. And by the way, I don't mean just like one person and another person. We're talking households. We're talking about a family of 3 at a minimum, potentially a family of 4 or 5. So you need to be able to just isolate it to 2 to 3 homes. And also it has to do with geographical range. I mean, on a standard city block in suburbia, you're going to get 4 to 5 homes per block, depending on where you live. Where I live, that's more rural, you're getting 2 to 3 homes per block. On the road I live, really, my neighbor's 500 meters away, right? So there's not a lot of homes in proximity. I'm picking that neighbor, and the neighbor I can see over here. And that's the best way to isolate it so you could group together as well geographically.
So, couple just simple, quick questions before I go to Khalid. How many guys would be in a squad? Like when you're in the Green Beret, what's the head count for number of guys in a squad?
So we break it down into 2 teams in a special forces detachment, and it's 2 5-man teams with the addition of leadership. So a team sergeant and a team leader. And that's the perfect blend. When I ran a sniper reconnaissance team, I had 2 cell leaders. So I had the Alpha team leader and the Bravo team leader, and then I had 4 teammates. And so organically, they could operate on their own, provide their own protection, have 1 guy up or 2 guys up on security, plan, organize, disseminate their own food, ammunition, and water, and be able to operate as an organization that's a fighting force. I would say a minimum of fighting force is going to be 3 at a minimum. That's bare minimum, but optimally you want 5 in a team. And so you have a team, you have a squad, and then obviously that goes into platoon and company, etc.
What if it was a QRF, like a quick reaction force? Same thing, like a couple groups of 5 and 5 plus leadership for Green Berets?
A QRF is as many people as you have in the back that are going to be willing to fight, that are fighting age males.
Okay.
So, you got a 13-year-old son. Well, guess what? I mean, where I live, everybody knows how to use firearms. If that young man is capable of carrying his own load, well, he's going to be part of the QRF as well. You're going to need every hand and potentially every barrel or muzzle that you can get. So yeah, I would say for QRF, I mean, I used to do not singleton operations. They were considered singleton, but I had multiple guys with me. But I would go out on operations where it was only a couple Americans in a vehicle, and our QRF was an entire platoon of 30 Rangers.
Okay. So there's a reason I asked that. There's a really famous guy named Jim Collins who wrote a book called Good to Great. He gets paid something like $150,000 to speak for an hour. And he basically is instructing businesses on how to identify their Mars team. So the people in the business, inside a particular business, that if they were going to Mars, these would be the people who would be those astronauts, which therefore would be the best of the best. And he said that the optimum size for a Mars team is 5 to 7 individuals. And he said the reason it was 5 to 7, he compared it to survival teams, but he said the problem is once you go past 7, you have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And I'm curious if you have any comments on that, because it sounds like you're very consistent with what Jim Collins is saying.
Yeah, I'm familiar vaguely with that. I'm more familiar with in terms of psychology and how it works. There's lots of really good studies that have been done on groups of people talking about tribes. I actually was going to write a book on it. One of the things that I've seen, especially with a special forces detachment isolated in the middle of nowhere, is you get a lot of infighting with anything more than 7 men. And that's because if you have 5 men that aren't in charge and they're subordinates, and you have 2 leaders, a team leader and a team sergeant, you have the perfect organic team. Not a lot of infighting because they don't oust the one guy isn't isolated. But you get a group of 7 or more, and I've seen it in every team room, in every special operations organization I've been in. You get any more than that, and then you get a guy who doesn't like another guy, and then you get his friends teaming up with him, and then the couple of stragglers teaming up with the other group. And the next thing you know, you're like, dude, I hate this dude. And you're like, he's an American Green Beret on your team. There's plenty of people to hate outside the wire. What the hell are you guys doing? And as a team sergeant, here's how I did it effectively. And this is some Ernest Shackleton stuff. So Ernest Shackleton, when he had his debacle where they went to a transcontinental basically operation to break some records, when they set sail, they basically got stuck and wedged in snow or on an ice cap, and they got stranded for over a year. In that, he had a lot of people that were just troublemakers. Instead of isolating them because he knew everybody had to survive, he would put himself as the leader in the tent with all the troublemakers. And so he controlled them, but he isolated the troublemakers from all the other guys. I had one troublemaker when I was a team sergeant. When I identified he was a troublemaker, I fired him like that. There was no hesitation. Despite him being one of the best snipers that ever worked for me, and despite of all of his skill sets, he grew up rural, he knew how to hunt, he had good eyes, he was great behind a sniper rifle. As soon as I established that he was not a team player, I fired him just like that. One, to get rid and trim the fat. Two, to demonstrate to everybody else there is zero tolerance for any bad behavior when it came to team dynamics.
Man, that's a killer story. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Khalid, I've actually got a couple questions for you. So picking up where Mike left off, how can small neighborhood groups avoid falling into cliques, basically, and, you know, all of the divisiveness that comes from that? Because, I mean, there's a lot of people in Pakistan. There's a lot of people in your urban centers. So you've seen it there. You've lived here in America, and you know, small, tight communities. You're going to go way past 7 people pretty quickly with some sort of neighborhood group. So how do you quell the cliques from forming?
Well, the biggest problem is people starting to run their own agenda. And Mike's right. When you find that one troublemaker, you need to get rid of them as quick as possible. We've had that problem in our teams. Again, getting into one of the Command 11 teams takes a hell of a lot of work. We put you through absolute hell to before you become part of our team. But once we figure, I mean, I don't care if I've spent 3 years training you. You start running your own agenda in the field, you're gone. We will dispatch you right there. And I'm not going to go into detail on what we mean by dispatch, but we get you out of the game as quick as possible. Because you need to understand that when you are working as part of a team, there's one agenda: survival. That's it. There is no other agenda to operate from. When you get beyond, and the way I would look at it is, look, you've got one core team. That is your core team that runs surveillance, runs recon, runs protection, runs communication. That's your core team of 5-6 people. They build teams underneath them, and that team structure builds down. As you build down, you need to make sure that the top commander stays in control all the way down. That's his job. And when you realize that your command team, someone has been compromised, someone is running their own agenda, you take over that command structure and you put someone else in place, even if you have to take it over yourself. But the problem you end up having is everyone has their own agenda. Once they realize there's something for them to gain after a terror attack, after a disaster, there's something they can gain from this, that agenda starts to appear. That's why before the incident happens, vetting, talking, I have had people change tires with me just to see if they were willing to get their hands dirty or not.
That's great. So I don't know if you have an answer for this or not, but I'm curious if you have any experiences with, you know, these calamities where 2 people ended up, you know, working together as part of a team because of this calamity, who under normal circumstances you thought would never be
all
friends.
the time,
and then they end up like this.
We are always surprised. We dealt with the earthquake in 2005. Pakistan was hit by a massive earthquake. Islamabad, most of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was leveled in this earthquake. We literally went into a village that had been turned to rubble. And people that literally had hated each other for years became like this. Because when the calamity hit, they forgot their own personal problems and they became part of a team to build something back in place. That is the true test. When you see, that is the true test of humanity. When you are put into a position where you have to help somebody else at their worst point, if you cannot become human at that point and put all your biases aside, religion, everything else does not matter because you have learned nothing. That is the point when you have to become part of that community and give that helping hand. And we've seen it. People that absolutely hate each other. We've asked people, how are these guys working together? Their families hate each other. They've killed their own family members. How are they working? Humanity took control. That they needed to help each other. That was the only way it was going to work. So they said, forget all the problems we have with each other. Let's solve this first. And all of the hate disappeared in the process.
Yeah, great answer. I don't know why as you're saying that. I'm thinking to myself, Hatfields and McCoys, but
It is. It is. In Pakistan, in Pakistan, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pashtun province, you can actually file with the police a written a legal document saying the police has nothing to do with my argument with this family. I will kill whoever I want to kill. If they want to kill us, they can kill us. It is true, Hatfield and McCoy in our country, because if you hate each other, there will be deaths on both sides, and there will be a certain body count that builds up. Then the community sits you down, and goes, enough, no more killing.
Are these Command 11 customers who you've taught battlefield execution to? Is that what we're
No, I've recruited a few of them. I've recruited a few of them into my teams, but they're not people we've taught in the beginning. It's a culture here. I mean, we all grew up with weapons. Every one of us grew up with weapons. I mean, every kid has shot an AK by the time they're 6, 7 years old, and you grow up with that weaponry. So when you start to, if you don't have an education and you are very quick with a weapon, killing somebody is very easy. And once you start killing someone from your family to justify killing from the other family is how things get settled here. I mean, this is literally the Old West. And parts of Pakistan is way beyond the Old West.
Really quick question before we move on to segment number 4. At some point in time, one of my buddies who served in Afghanistan said that when people were walking around with AK-47s, nobody would give them a second look. But the second somebody was spotted with a sidearm in a holster, they were immediately perceived to be an assassin.
Yep.
Is that like that in Pakistan as well? Is that a regional thing?
Yep. When I have my sidearm on me, I have police officers coming up and asking me why. I have people looking at me very odd. But you see guys walking around with AKs and ARs. Nobody even bothers looking at them.
Interesting.
But they see a sidearm on you, or especially concealed weapon on you, they think assassin.
Very interesting. Very interesting. All right. So that's 3 segments down, and we've got 4 and 5 to go. Just want to mention again, we're getting to about the 48-hour point here as far as our membership drive is concerned. If you go to survivaldispatch.news, click on that where it says join the SDN Intel network. Midnight Friday, this promotion ends, 30% off. So if you want to be part of a group that's like-minded, you want to have access to information across the country that's not coming from legacy media, this is as cheap as it gets. I mean, for $52.49, if you pay the annual one with 30% off, it's something like $4.50 a month. You can't even buy, a coffee for that anymore in half the cities across America. So for less than the cost of 1 cup of coffee per month, you can tap into our network. So with that being said, let's get into segment number 4, which is maintaining and, keeping your group glued together, keeping it from becoming undone. So, to hold that trust as things start to return to some semblance of normality, it gets easy. We all know this, right? It gets easy. You don't call somebody, you don't go and see them. Next thing you know, 10 years has gone by in the blink of an eye. And so our suggestions, my suggestion, post 9/11 2.0, you've got to form a group because there's strength in numbers. It's better that you do it now, not after. But whether you do it before or after, if your area starts to return to some semblance of normality, don't let life get away from you and lose contact or touch with those people that you work so hard to come together as a group. It could be having a cookout together, coffee together, whatever the case may be, but, keep that rapport going on a regular basis. And you know what, there's going to be bumps in the road, whether they're severe, serious or not, like a terrorist attack or whatever. But if you have that close rapport and as a neighborhood like we grew up with, where everybody looks after everybody else, that will put you in good stead. God forbid you end up one of the places that has these follow-on terrorist attacks. And, if it'd be nice if we could think that we could do that the rest of our life and get back to some semblance of the way America used to be. But Mike, you've already kind of spoke to this, but maybe speak in terms of, the average individual, not just military. what's something that you've seen and immediately thought to yourself, that is going to, pull this group apart, and I need to nip it right in the bud, not just the sniper guy, but think in terms of your neighbors that you have right now that are 502.3 meters away. What type of behavior would you see and know immediately as a leader that you had to deal with it?
Well, I mean, you're always going to have the klepto in your group. That's we used to call them chow thief in the military. Like you're always going to have people who are desperate, and for whatever reason, maybe even a defensive mechanism, they hoard, they do weird things that are, psychologically you could put a finger on it, but in a team dynamic is unacceptable. Like stealing somebody's food, being selfish, being lazy. I've seen it in civilian groups where we're doing a resilience course where the whole point is to cooperate as a team, and you have one person who has a bad attitude, who's lazy, who doesn't want to be a team player. What's like, get the F out of here. You paid for this experience and you're not even willing proactively to participate. I can't imagine if you were propelled into this experience by default because of something that happened. So one thing that I would recommend is, it is unacceptable for you to accept a lazy human being in this type of scenario. And, people inherently are lazy, but at the point in which you have to step up is likely one of these disasters. And if they haven't, it's literally because they're just lazy by nature, and you ain't got time for that.
So I don't know that, every American out there understands that Green Berets are usually the first in and the last out. And you guys specialize in building rapport with people in whatever area that you're tasked with. And the Green Berets are famous for rebuilding stuff, rebuilding, whether it be physical or, metaphorical, but rebuilding communities, cities, villages, whatever the case may be. And I'm curious if you have any examples of where there's been disagreements in the, call it the locals, and you've had to step in as a mediator of some sort. You've had to assist in them hashing this thing out, whatever it is. What's worked for you to bring two sides back together again that have gone off the rails?
Well, I'll give you kind of a shifted answer that's like, I think, a better example of the mindset. When I ran a program in Libya, which was really one of the first counterterrorism programs that the military, specifically Special Operations Command Africa, ever ran, the military had already down selected the right guys, and we put them together, and we were going to use them as a counterterrorism option, a bilateral option to do counterterrorism with an American and a Libyan face, right? But we needed these guys to be capable because we're going against Al Qaeda and AQIM, Islamic Maghreb. They know how to operate because they operate in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, they're really good. So when we were plucking these guys, the head shed's perspective was, we need to get these guys in shape. I've seen the same exact playbook in every single country that I've worked with indigenous or host nation forces. There's a misperception based on culture, and they want to bring in a CrossFit coach. And they're like, we need to get rogue equipment to do workouts of the day. And I'm like, guys, these guys don't even have enough nutrition to support the muscle breakdown in protein. So, like, you're worried about if these guys can do a workout of the day, name one of the CrossFit workouts, and I'm worried about if they could survive walking through a door with an AK against enemy personnel. And it's completely ass backwards, because we have this idea that the world operates like we operate. The way we should look at it is, how does the world operate? And that's how we should adapt instead. And again, I've seen it, like, especially in Afghanistan, where rural parts of Afghanistan that I plucked auxiliary forces from, dude, these guys lived in dirt. They hadn't seen running water ever. They were wiping their asses with rocks and using bottles of water. Like, you're like, what? And it's like, get over that hump, but let's figure out the way to optimize this force so they don't get killed and we don't get killed in the process. There's a huge cultural distinguished difference that a lot of Westerners and a lot of Americans just do not understand. And I used to hear it all the time. It's like, what they say, what was the derogatory thing they always say? Like, these, whatever, sand, whatever, right? Like just dirt dwellers, whatever the thing was. And I'm like, these guys are more capable than you. You can't even walk up a mountain with $300 boots and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. This dude's doing it in tire sandals and a robe, essentially, with an AK-47 and getting it done. Have a little respect. We used to have that debate all the time. And I think we have to understand that people don't operate like we operate. And if you want to build rapport, ask the question and figure it out before you throw your American ignorance into the equation, especially if you're dealing with like an international type deal.
I love the experiences from your deployments when you share them, Mike. It's always eye-opening stuff for sure. Khalid, when you're recovering, you know, in an area from whatever the thing is, you guys have lots of terrorist attacks there. What, as a leader, what's going through your mind as far as taking the initiative to make sure you do those little things, little touches for the people in your group to remind them that you still care and that the trust of the group still matters? How do you handle stuff like that post SHTF?
Well, the biggest thing we do is every night we all sit down. We have a counseling session with each other. I mean, it's kind of like, share your own experiences. It lets you get that anger out of you inside the group rather than taking it out on the people you're trying to help. There's a lot that goes through us because we're a private team. We're not connected with the Pakistani military. We're not connected with anyone's military. So everything we do is on our own. And one of the things we learned was that, look, the only way we're going to be able to handle what we face is by sitting down and talking about it as the team that we are. Our teams have operated together for 5-6 years at a time. And we all know each other. We know family members. We know kids. We know everything about each other. So when we sit down in the evening after we've been through a situation or a strike move or moved into a new village, we all sit down and go, okay, let's talk about it. What happened today? What did you see? What happened to you? And people identify people for us. That house over on the hill, they seem really odd to me. They were kind of spying on us, watching what we were doing. Mike's right. When you talk about coming to this side of the world, you forget it's 2025 when you come to this side of the world. You're thinking 1950, 1960. Yes, we look like a modern country when you walk through our urban cities, but the mindset is still 1950s, 1960s. That's why we're still neighborly. That's why we still have all of those hospitable behaviors in us, because we have not been influenced to the point where we've gone full technology, full modernization. And a lot of people that come here, and Mike's right, there's a lot of nasty things that are said about Pakistanis, Afghanis, Arabs, because of where we come from. The problem is that you cannot climb the mountain like we can. We do it every day. You cannot. I know people that go shopping in the market, take a gunny sack and put it over their shoulder. It's 100 kilos and walk up a mountain that's at a 45% incline, and take 4 hours and walk home with all the groceries they bought, and they deliver it to their house. Let's see an American do that who is physically fit. Let's see you do that.
That's 220 pounds, by the way.
This is because Pakistan, Afghanistan, we're all well behind what the Western world does. We have to learn to fend for ourselves. The fact that we still buy fresh meat, we have butchers that are killing cows every morning, and we go buy fresh meat from them. And we're literally asking the question, when was this cow killed? Was it killed yesterday? Is the meat from the freezer? Is the meat fresh? And that determines whether we buy from them or not. All of our vegetables are fresh. Every time that the establishment has tried to put GMO vegetables onto our lands, the people have rejected it. We stayed organic. We're 40 years behind you in development. And the mentality we work with is that 40 years behind. And when you look at this culture, you need to roll your mind back 40 years and go, okay, let's remember 1990 America. That's what Pakistan is right now. They have all the mobile phones, they have the laptops, they have 4G internet, but the mind still operates there.
So, Mike, I don't know if you've ever been on when Dan has sent tips to us like this. Usually it comes in the form of a caliber. It's like he sends $2.23, $5.56, $7.62, so on and so forth. So now he's got $9 inches, not caliber tonight. but we always kind of throw it out there, well, how about the, 458 SOCOM and stuff like that. Keep it amping up. But Dano, we appreciate your support. Always. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. You're good, solid SD follower. So now we're into the final segment, resilience, and trying to lock in all of these hard fought gains as far as, pulling your neighborhood and your group together. So, you've got trust is established. You've got really good resilience amongst your group or your neighborhood. And, you have people who are willing to share with each other, willing to help with each other. And it almost gets to the point where, if you're doing things right, that it becomes muscle memory. Nobody has to think, oh, I need to make an effort to be nice to somebody or to do something for somebody else. And I think part of this is by, celebrating wins, big and small, across the board, and sharing that experience at a cookout. Everything gets better with food. So my heritage is Greek, and in the Greek world, everything's about food. Food solves all problems. Mark my words. At the end of the day, you can't run a V8 on a gallon of gas. So it's all about the food. So with that being said, in the end, the goal is to turn this into something that is just natural. It's nobody has to actually make an effort to help each other. Somebody needs help putting their fence back together. It's the old way of farming, essentially, where you have a barn raising. Have you seen Mormons build a farm or a barn, pardon me, and then 100 of them show up and they all pick it up and carry it somewhere? I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen enough stuff online. And now Dano's into $5. I got 5 on it, like the song. It kind of kills me. Dano's classic. Anyway, at the end of the day, Mike, is there anything that you could actually measure? Like where I come from. I come from, a business world of KPIs, key performance indicators. Successful businesses live and die by them. Are there any KPIs that you could look at and say, this is a great group, it's measurable, it's quantifiable, and they're going to last in the long run because of X, Y, and Z? And I don't know if there's any way to measure this or not, so it might be a bullshit question.
No, I mean, it's measured by the output. Are they cooperating together and getting optimized results? And like, for example, a presence patrol would be a common task that you would do in any circumstance. Natural disaster, you would do a presence patrol because you would start going outside of your protected zone to see what's going on, to gain situational awareness. In combat, we would do it to basically probe the enemy, but also gain situational awareness to make sure that the external perimeter around our fire base was safe and secure. And that doesn't necessarily mean walking along in a triangle with weapon systems. It could be, hey, we're just going to go into town and see what's going on. We're going to talk to the locals. We're going to ask if anybody needs help. We're going to get out and fix this guy's fence. These things are important. We used to do veterinary tasks, which were some of the most effective ways to build rapport in Afghanistan because they take their livestock very seriously. So if we went in and we catered and we gave donkeys antibiotics, well, we just protected this dude's means of transportation and logistics train for years, where he was going to potentially lose that donkey and then have to figure out a way to carry on his back or not at all. So I think when you look at trying to measure results, it's how well are you cooperating? Are you driving towards specific objectives? Are you being led well? And again, we've talked about all those things in advance. These are things that lead up to like, hey man, are we getting a return on investment? Is this the right thing? And if you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're laughing, you're fireside chatting, and you're alive, then likely you have the net result of cooperation and good teamwork.
I got one more question for you, Mike, but just a quick aside. My sister-in-law's donkey, his name was Fred, and Fred was an asshole. And Fred would sneak up behind you and bite you. He was a miserable SOB.
I got ghosts like that.
And in Texas, you know, if a donkey like Fred, this is how it happened. If he broke the fence at the neighbor's farm and comes to your farm after 7 days, you now own Fred. He's now your livestock. And that donkey was an asshole. He bit me. He went after my dogs. I almost shot him one day. Everybody's like, don't shoot Tahana's donkey. And I'm like, that guy's an asshole. He's going after my dogs. But anyways, for the record, I don't like donkeys. Is there, you have done a shit ton of training for people at all different levels. Are there any drills that come top of mind for you that just lock it in for a group? Like they take that rapport to the level where it's, you know, unbreakable. And I'm not talking Green Berets like you guys. I'm talking just like average people. What drills, you've run a shit ton of drills for people over the years. Does anything stand out in that capacity?
The best one is, I in my personal opinion, the best one for groups is making fire. Because a lot of people, I just did it for Jack Osborne's crew in Idaho. When you have, most people think they know how to make a fire. They don't. They understand principally the idea of how to make a fire, but it's very technical and it's very specific. And if you don't do the things by the steps and work together, then you're not going to be able to make it. And so, you know, one person picks the toothpicks, one person picks the pencils, one person picks the sticks, and then one person makes the tinder. They come together, and when they get fire, it's instant gratification that their teamwork brought this together, and then it's just Ranger TV. They just stare at it. Individually, but as a group, we used to have this drill called during my resilience course it's a rewilding course called Shoot to Eat. The only way that you could eat is if you hit your target. And so we'd have an animal target, and then we take you know, some kind of recurve bow, and instantaneously, because it's very primitive and very primal, you would pick that bow up and people would instinctively start hitting the target. And if everybody hit the target and you guys collectively did it together, we would give you an actual rabbit, a chicken, and then you'd have to dispatch it together, break it down together, and then cook, and then eat it. And then we usually starved you a little bit before then, so you would look at it and eat it alive if you had to. And so that whole process, which is very primal, is something that we've gotten away from. Oh, and by the way, everybody in the third world does that every single meal of every single day. And it's like, that is a resilience opportunity in a retreat program. And it's something that's done in the third world every single meal of every single day.
I can't tell you how many times I've said, Mike, that day-to-day life for our grandparents today is considered survival.
Yeah. Or every Afghan, Indian, you know, name every country outside of America.
So Dano's stepping it up here. Dan, thank you very much. $19. Ma Deuce tells nobody twice. MK19 shuts everyone the fuck up. Oh my God, he's got a great sense of humor. Khalid, I've got one last question on this final segment here. When you have these calamities going on, and for those people who aren't aware of this, the jihadis in Afghanistan, Terrorist Central, they test their tactics on Khalid's people, on the Pakistanis. And so it's a regular occurrence. And I'm curious, you know, when you've got a group that's come together, Khalid, how do you stop outsiders from coming in and blowing that trust up? Like, how do you keep that group tight and you don't let some new guy, the FNG, come along and throw a monkey wrench into things?
Well, again, our vetting process is very tight. We literally go, anybody who wants to be part of our strike team, we go back to literally where your mom and dad live, where your grandparents lived. And we ask questions about you there as well. What kind of family are you? Are you troublemakers by nature? Are you gossips by nature? You don't get into our teams without us doing literally a grandparents check, where we go back to whatever village you came from and we start asking people there, okay, so such and such family, what are they like? Have they caused problems here? Are they gossips? Are they known to twist words? Are they known to, create issues within? Have they ever had a problem in the community? And we slowly follow you all the way to where you live currently. And we figure out exactly what type of a person you are. That's one of the biggest things we do. The problem that we end up having, and we've had this happen in our teams, a guy gets into our team and he ends up being one of those that goes, oh, I don't like so-and-so. I don't like how his leadership style is. His aim is off. He doesn't train so hard. We put them one-on-one with each other. Let's take you out on the field. Let's see if you can take him down. And that shuts people up really fast, because when you put him one-on-one against the guy he has a problem with, you find out how good he really is. And it's an example for every member of the teams. We have 5 different teams that operate, 7 to 12 guys on every team. When they sit on top of the mountain and watch these 2 guys go at each other, close quarter combat, target shooting, stress shooting, if you can't beat the guy you hate, shut the hell up. Because you can't compete with him. That's it. Game over. Bye-bye. Leave. And most of the guys that we end up putting into that situation, at the end of the day, that's the door. Go home. You're no longer part of our teams. Because if you can't step up to match the guy that you had a problem with, you're no good to us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just a quick anecdotal example is I ran the CEO exchange in Central Florida for UCF, University of Central Florida, largest university in the country now. And we broke it down to 12 cohorts, or 12 people per cohort, pardon me. So each group of the CEO exchange was limited to 12 people. And when I took it over, I asked everybody, I said, what's the one thing that's never been done before that you would like to see change in this group, or the group that they were in? And they said, basically the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, which works through UCF, would basically say, okay, this person's going to be in your group now. And the people who were in the group had no say over it. And it caused a lot of divisiveness. So we went to this thing where if there was a seat available, you could nominate somebody to become part of the group. They could come and have lunch with us. They fed us like kings, but then they would leave, and it had to be a unanimous vote. And if one person spoke against whoever the candidate was, they couldn't be allowed in. And I'll give you an interesting example. This one guy, he was extremely intelligent, very successful. Everybody loved him. And he owned a very large marketing company. He came, he had lunch with us a couple times, blah, blah, blah. And when the vote came, one guy said, absolutely not. He cannot be in this group. That's my marketing guy, and he doesn't need to know all the confidential details of my business, because they would share a lot of financial information and whatnot. So it was an interesting learning experience for me, that if you have a group that's solid, one of the things to consider is if somebody new comes along, it can't be 50+1. It's got to be unanimous. Make it unanimous. So anyway, at the end of the day, super interesting conversation and topic here tonight. And I think it's safe to say everybody knows this, that the threats, the landscape when it comes to jihadis has evolved tremendously since 9/11 2.0. And all of these guys, as Cleet has told us and Mike has told us, over many, many episodes, pardon me, that they are all coordinated now. The enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine, sort of thing. And they have different targets today than they did 20, 25 years ago, where they want to target our infrastructure, whether it be things like the grid, the water supply. And, there's been quite a few government, let's say, announcements and papers to this effect over the past few years. Even Christopher Wray, who in my opinion was not a very good FBI director, how many times did he go in front of Congress and say all the lights are flashing? There's bad people who want to do bad things to us. So I think on the community resilient side, this is one of those things that's easier said than done, but you're better off starting now if you haven't already, than waiting for the shit to hit the fan and trying to bring, you know, your neighborhood, your group, your mutual assistance group, neighborhood watch group, whatever you want to call it, from coming together. But at the end of the day, I think when you're building this stuff, you have to have the ability to step back, be pragmatic, have some discernment, and rely on people around you, which I do all the time, right? Like, I'm a college dropout, and my whole career has been predicated on surrounding myself with people smarter than me that can do things that I can't do. There's an old adage says the A's always end up working for the C's. And I don't know if that's true, but I do know that when you surround yourself by really smart people, it takes things to a whole new level from, you know, an output, you know, perspective, as Mike stated. So with that being said, we are now at one of my favorite parts of the entire night. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And this is the Carnival hero of the day. I won't say 1987 John Madden NFL football, even though that's what that always reminds me of. So this is a pretty cool story, and everybody on the panel here tonight, everybody at SDN for that matter, is a dog lover. But check this one out. And I'm trying to remember who sent this to us. I don't seem to have it in the note, but whoever this veterinarian is, she's a hero. 45 seconds.
And you can't fight the tears that ain't coming, or the moment of truth in your lies, when everything feels like the movies. Yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. 'Cause I don't want the world to see me. No, I don't think that they'd understand when everything's made to be broken. I just want you to know who I am.
So what gets me on that one, by the way, is, you know, we've had pit bulls forever and a day, and they've got a reputation that doesn't suit them at all. This is your typical pit bull right there. They love their pack and their family unit. I've told this story before, so I'm not going to tell it very long, but one of the first projects Mike and I worked on together, he told a story of a dog in his squad getting killed by a couple jihadis. And there was probably 35, 40 people under this pavilion in the middle of nowhere at Tampa Bay Clay's 200-acre hunting place. There wasn't a dry eye underneath there. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, I've always thought highly of Mike Glover, but that does it right there. That takes it to that level where when you see people affected like that over animals, dogs in particular, that's a good way in my mind to, if you're talking sizing people up and trying to figure out where they stand, look at all the serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer. What do they start with? They start with, you know, maiming, injuring, and torturing animals before they progress to humans. And that's just, they're not wired properly at the end of the day. Not in my mind, at least. The next one up is the audience submitted story of the day. And I'd actually like to hear both of your comments on this. And I think this was Steve that sent this in. Yeah, Steve Jordan. He's in our Guardians chat. He's another active member. So this is regarding the FBI in Mobile, Alabama, basically breaking up a terrorist cell. So this was, they were going to attack, or this group was going to attack a synagogue in Alabama. So they were able to, you know, figure it out. There's lots of stuff out there as far as getting information on it's concerned. This is the guy who was basically caught. Jeremy Shoemaker is his name. Mike, I want to come back to you just quickly here and get your thoughts on it. We usually hear, well, he was on our radar, but in this instance, they actually got the guy before he killed anybody. Just as a rough estimation, how many do we actually catch versus how many slip through? Just speculating.
Oh, I mean, I can't even imagine how many people slip through, but how many people they actually roll up is not often advertised. So they're doing a lot of good work. I mean, there's a lot of organizations and task force, and you know, I've gotten JTTF briefs, Joint Terrorism Task Force briefs, that would shock me because 99% of it would never hit the news, which is a good thing in some ways. But I think the American people should know that there's a bigger problem than there's actually being advertised. So yeah, I think they're crushing it. And again, some of those stories leak through, but the majority of them you'll never hear about.
Yeah, I suspected that that's the case, and I have no way to prove, of course, anecdotal. But Khalid, I mean, this is something you've been beating the drum for an awfully long time about stuff like this. It's good to see that we actually caught somebody. But the FBI is trying to say that Joe Kent's warning, which Mike is friends with Joe Kent, and Joe Kent got a bunch of information from you vis-a-vis Sarah and stuff like that. I mean, on the one hand, I want to say, way to go, FBI. On the other hand, I want to say, what the hell's wrong with you?
Well, here's my problem. I mean, the dick measuring contest needs to end. You're protecting American people. It's not I'm better than you. It's everyone has their own specific skill set. Let everyone operate in their skill set. Joe Kent looking at foreign files on Charlie Kirk's murder is not impeding your investigation. That is an assistance for you. Joe Kent putting out a counterterrorism threat that an Al-Qaeda attack is going to happen on U.S. soil is an advisory and an assistance to you as the FBI. Whether you take it that way or not is a demonstration of your character. Because every government agency works together, especially on the intelligence side. If you stop that relationship and start saying, well, ODNI is above not counterterrorism, FBI is above ODNI, you've destroyed the whole system. Everyone has to work together. No one is watching every ball in play. And everyone who's watching it, the 16 agencies that are watching every ball in play, are all working together. They're all feeding that information to a fusion center. If one person steps in and says, no, that's not true, then you've busted the model. For example, yesterday we posted the 2 Mexicans that were trying to smuggle 400 guns across the border into Mexico. That got caught by Customs and Border Patrol. They caught it when you should have figured it out. When somebody's going out and buying 400 weapons, the haul that was laid out, Chris, when you look at the haul that was laid out with the weapons, the ammunition, everything that was, I went, where in the fuck is the FBI? They should have caught this thing. Customs and Border Patrol caught it.
Very interesting. Now, I didn't even catch that. I mean, half the time I'm not catching everything you're putting out there just because I'm buried in my work. And you know what I'm like. I come up for air once in a blue moon. But yeah, I didn't know that until you just mentioned that. It's fascinating. So let's hit up the conflicted question here. We're in the home stretch now. So conflictedthegame.com. Once the local community started to break down due to the collapse, leaders of all kinds started to step up to the plate. Mindy, the head of the Homeowners Association, had no experience dealing with this new reality, yet she thought her leadership status in the community gave her the right to make all the decisions. Gordon quickly realized Mindy was the wrong person for the job. She had to be removed. If you were Gordon, how would you go about replacing a bad leader? And holy shit, if there was ever a Mike Glover question, there it is. How would you deal with her?
I'd shut her down. I mean, there's no negotiation. I mean, one of the things that you have to realize, especially in a disaster that involves a terrorism attack, we don't have time to debate. And a person who thinks that leadership in an executive position running admin is the same as leadership on the battlefield, look, it's very different. And look, I would take the lead from different people depending on their backgrounds, but I know the difference. I for sure as hell would not take the lead from a civilian with no experience in catastrophe or disaster, and this being the worst man-made disaster that you could fathom. And I would simply shut her down and give her no options. I mean, it's that simple. And I would be one of the ones to take charge immediately. And I would probably be designating other groups and other men potentially to take charge because, look, a lot of people don't ever want to step up and do this kind of stuff. And I get it. But the GWAT vet with senior leadership experience, which I have, which many of my peers have, we would be the first voluntarily to raise our hands, and Mindy could just. I wanted to say something like "get in the kitchen" or something, but I won't say that. I'm not going to be sexist. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to be that way.
I mean, not a criticism. Not a criticism, just
Yep.
a helpful thing inside.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
Inside voice, not outside voice.
Yep.
All right. So, and by the way, we want to see your answers in the live chat or the comment section down below. Khalid, how would you deal with Mindy? You cannot execute her on the battlefield.
Why execute her? You can discredit her. It's really easy to discredit her.
I'm taking it off the table. No battlefield executions for the conflict.
We'll take that off the table. Discredit her. Give her a task. Give her a task with the team that is impossible to achieve for her skill set. Once you've discredited her, that's it. The game's over. She's no longer a leader. And you step in and take over that leadership role. There are so many ways, because we've dealt with this. Communities we go into, you get this chief who stands up and says, I'll handle this and I'll handle this. You put on many hats to pretend like I would deal with it. You give them that task and say, okay, here's what you need to do. The village needs food. Go find us food. You have this many people, go find us food. You have 24 hours to bring us food for 50 people. Find it. Because that's the core requirement of the community, is they have to be fed. Find us food. If you can't do that, you're no longer a leader, because you don't understand the core requirement of the community. Everyone does not have to be executed. That word dispatch that we have is a polite way of saying bye-bye. Walk you out of the battlefield, walk you out of the scenario, discredit you to the point where your credibility, your attempt to be a leader is no longer accepted by anyone.
Khalid, I'm impressed. Without executing her, you came up with a very creative solution to that problem, and well done. So just a couple house cleaning things at the end here. If you are not following Mike Glover, and he's got other ones, which I'll have him name in a second, but deaddropintel.org. And so Mike puts out regular short videos for updates on getting intelligence out there to people. Khalid's part of the team. I help on the back end. I'm a tech guy. I'm not an intelligence expert, but there's multiple people that Khalid and Mike have combined together that contribute. Ryan Geho's done a great job, by the way, providing stuff for this. Mike, what are the other locations where people can find you online so that they know that they're following you?
Yeah, I'm all over YouTube. I have like 3 channels: the Mike Force podcast, I have Mike Glover channel, and then Mike Glover stories. I did just add a contributor who I podcasted today, who's a cybersecurity expert named Lee. I won't hack his last name, but I do have a article as well that he wrote on new technology integrated into drones, including fiber optic cables, which is fairly new, but he talks in detail about the difficulties of countering that kind of attack. He will be added, and I'll send that article over to you, who's, Chris is a great facilitator for this. He's the center focal point of the entire operation to make it work. It can't work without him. And I also am on Spotify on the Mike Force podcast.
Well, Mike is far too kind. Again, I'm a college dropout. I'm just the guy who puts shit together. These guys are the true, these are the experts, not me. I just facilitate stuff. A couple other quick mentions before we wrap up. Tonight is the last night that you can get the POC-Link radios with free global access for the life of the device. There's links down below in the description of all of the videos. There's links in our sit reps on our Substack, survivaldispatch.news, but they're $399 a pair. They're going to $1,140 a pair. The annual SIM card fee will be somewhere between $29 and $65, depending on which package you choose. So if you have these for your group and your family, that's going to add up over time. So getting the free global access is a hell of a deal. And if you sign up as a Survival Dispatch Guardian, we have a special on right now. Go to survivaldispatch.news, click on the membership drive, big story at the top of our Substack. And it's 30% off for the first 100 people who sign up. It ends at midnight on Friday night. But if you have the POC-Link radios, you get sent emergency notifications here. If your radio, the battery's dead, or your not in somewhere where you've got service. All of the messages sent to that group are recorded in the smartphone app. You can pull the smartphone app and access it. This is dead, but your phone's operating. The network's still up. You can send and receive messages to your group over the smartphone app as well. That's pretty cool. I want to thank our friends at Carnivalt, our premier sponsor, carnivalt.com. This is 100% American. The bag's American. The O2 absorber's American. The meat's American. No MR. There you go. No mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines. This is just an incredible product. Other people have tried and have failed miserably at this. When you freeze dry meat, it has fat in it, it turns to jelly. We've done it. My wife has 2 freeze dryers, and it's makes it impossible because you put it in the Mylar bag, you vacuum seal it, O2 absorber, that jelly fat will ruin the meat. These guys have got it to a science. 0.05% relative humidity in this stuff reconstitutes in the blink of an eye. Mike did the funniest Carnivalt video I've ever seen in my life. It was a cooking show, and he even spoke in his mother's accent, which was pretty funny to be quite frank.
Racist.
It was very racist, but we're all racist here at Survival Dispatch, Dead Drop, you name it. But and I'm saying that tongue in cheek, by the way. But anyway, amazing product, amazing company, carnivalt.com. Use the code EATMEAT, all one word, gets you 10% off. And if your order's over $99, free shipping. And they have single serve packets now. So you buy a box, it's got 12 single serves in it. Grab a couple, do whatever you're doing. Like, we know some people who hunt off grid that are intrigued by it because they have to hike 14, 15 miles to the base camp. They don't even take water with them. They take, Sawyer filters, that kind of stuff. So to be able to take steak in with them and then filter their water, rehydrate, because most of the time they eat MREs, protein bars, just crap food compared to this. This is amazing product. I think that's it. I think we covered everything. So we'll be back tomorrow night with the next episode in our long war series. And Jeff and Randy will both be with us tomorrow night. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've got. I don't think so. I think that's it. So between now and then, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America. Enjoy the closing video. It's a brand new one.